When the Murong brothers spoke of their ancestors' long red hair, their eyes were filled with fear. And not just the Murong brothers, even Murong ancestor himself was likely very uneasy about his ominous transformation. It was said that by the end of his days, even his complete corpse was burned, leaving behind nothing but a pile of red hair, which had to be locked away in a copper coffin. But Duan Yun was not afraid. In his mind, no one understood the 12 layers of spring rain better than he did, not even the Murong ancestor. The reason the Murong ancestor feared the ominous presence of his long red hair was that the 12 layers of spring rain was too deep for him to grasp. But Duan Yun was different. What could he possibly not master? As for the concern of growing red hair during cultivation and becoming less handsome, that was simply a matter of control. If you can grow red hair but can't fully control it, and it even affects your looks, isn't that your own problem? Regarding martial artists turning into muscle-bound giants covered in tumor-like growths, growing extra heads and hands, those grotesque transformations, it's all a matter of mastery. With his extraordinary wisdom, what could he possibly not control? Thus, not only did Duan Yun not resist the ominous red hair, he even felt a subtle sense of anticipation. He was looking forward to whether, once the hair emerged, he would undergo a tremendous change. Apart from the chaos and disturbance caused by the sea god, the Jime Hao's journey was peaceful, and the ship was in a festive mood. Having been with Duan Yun on this ship for so long, the martial world people found that young hero Duan didn't punish them, and they gradually grew at ease, even becoming generous. For example, now on the deck of the ship, an old brother had his wife perform a gentle dance. It was said that his wife had once competed for Fengzhou's top 10 devices because of her dance skills. Although she failed, just qualifying for the competition demonstrated her considerable ability. Even Duan Yun had to admit that this old brother's wife was indeed very graceful. Her body seemed to glide on the ground, as if she had no bones, writhing like a snake. One might say she was like a beautiful snake woman. Any man entwined by such a woman would surely be quite taken in. The old brother's wife danced passionately on the deck, and people watched with enthusiasm. Of course, there were also those watching intently, without blinking, who were secretly grumbling under their breath. Only your wife can dance. Only your wife knows how to be graceful, huh? Show off. A man came out of the latrine, pulling up his pants, speaking with a tough demeanor. In the martial world, those with a bit of skill like to show off and think about outshining others. This old brother had his wife take the stage, clearly stealing the spotlight. So while these people watched with enthusiasm, they couldn't help but grumble and complain, especially when comparing their own wives, who were homely and ungraceful by comparison. Their complaints became even louder. Amid this atmosphere, the Jime Hao sailed on steadily. According to Ghost Foot 7, they were already very close to Fusang, and it would take no more than 2 days and a night to get there. But on this day, at noon, everyone on the ship was surprised to find that they hadn't seen the sun for quite some time. This wasn't due to overcast weather, but due to the fog. In fact, at sea, having fog at night and in the morning is quite normal, but this time, the fog hadn't cleared for a while. At this moment, Ziyu suddenly said, "Why do I feel a bit cold?" Ziyu was always sensitive to temperature changes. Duan Yun thought of something, went to the deck, and saw Ghost Foot 7 still at the helm. This old helmsman with 7 toes always steered the ship steady. He looked at the fog, touched it with his hand and said, "This fog is so cold. Could there be an iceberg nearby?" Ghost Foot 7 furrowed his brows but quickly replied respectfully, "Young master, it's unlikely for there to be an iceberg around here. Based on his experience, there really shouldn't be any icebergs here." But the next moment, his expression changed slightly. Duan Yun's expression was serious. Even though it was his first time at sea, his displayed abilities were not to be underestimated, even by this old ship hand. Moreover, there was the ship's history. This Jime Hao had been abandoned after crashing into an iceberg. The original wealthy merchant abandoned it not only because it had significant issues that couldn't be fixed to its original sturdiness even after repairs, but also because they felt the ship was unlucky. According to the wealthy merchant's fleet, they encountered the iceberg on a route where there shouldn't have been any. Thus, Ghostfoot 7 clenched his seven-toed foot tightly and shouted robustly to those above. Lousy eagle, keep a sharp lookout, just in case there's an iceberg. Iceberg? Where would a damn iceberg come from? Lousy eagle stood on the lookout tower, saying this, but he still watched closely with an eagle eye. This man may have a hard mouth, but he never slacked off at work. Since the lookout was already aware of this matter, Duan-Yun went back to enjoy his tea. About to land on the island, he needed to prepare for his grand slaughter. It was said that some Fusang martial artists like to burn incense and bathe before killing, to mask the stench of murder and maintain their flawlessness. Duan-Yun didn't do such things because he felt that as a butcher slaughtering swine and dogs, he didn't need to be so particular, he just needed to conserve his energy. Just after he closed his eyes to rest for a while, the voice of the smelly eagle suddenly drifted over. This is unbelievable. What is that? Upon hearing this, Ziyu and Duan-Yun immediately used their movement techniques and swept over. After a couple of jumps, they were already standing on the mast of the smelly eagle. Following the smelly eagle's gaze, they were both startled. The sea was shrouded in thick fog, making everything unclear. Looking at the triangular shape, Duan-Yun and Ziyu, who had speculated earlier, first thought it was an iceberg. Below, the smelly eagle was already instructing Ghostfoot 7 to steer the ship away. At this moment, Duan-Yun activated the room pupil technique and looked towards the mountain, because the smelly eagle's words didn't seem to point to a simple iceberg. Immediately after, Duan-Yun witnessed an unbelievable scene. At the top of the iceberg floating on the sea, there was a human head. A woman's head. This woman's head was enormous, at least much larger than a normal person's, so even from such a distance, it was clearly visible. The iceberg just drifted there, appearing to go with the flow. Yet Duan-Yun could feel it approaching the ship. Also due to this proximity, Duan-Yun could see the iceberg and the woman on it more clearly. From this vantage point, he could see through the ice layer of the iceberg and observe that the woman's entire body, except her head, seemed encased in ice. The ice layer was semi-transparent, and Duan-Yun could also see her form. Is this still a human? This was Duan-Yun's first reaction, because the body encased in ice looked long at first glance. Very long. The woman's waist was thin and elongated, as if iron rings encircled her waist, making her body look like a noodle from this perspective. A very long noodle, at least 4 or 5 meters, trapped in the iceberg. The entire person seemed deliberately stretched, appearing bizarre and eerie. Dead. Seeing such a person frozen inside an iceberg drifting, Duan-Yun's first assumption was a corpse, but using the room pupil technique to part the cold mist, he felt instead that she was alive. At least her eyes didn't look lifeless, and even gave Duan-Yun a feeling of being watched. To avoid the iceberg, the Lady Beauty had moved to the other side, thus distancing them from the iceberg. At this moment, Ziyu also saw the woman's head and exclaimed, "Why is there a woman on top of that?" Duan-Yun said, "Watch the ship. I'm going over there." As he spoke, he had already used his movement technique, sweeping towards the iceberg like an eagle. He wanted to see what the iceberg was all about. But just as he was flying, a loud sound came from the direction of the Lady Beauty, followed by screams from everyone on board. 2 violent water spouts suddenly shot up, accompanied by giant waves that made the Lady Beauty rock violently. Duan-Yun had no choice but to rush back. Just when he was about to reach the Lady Beauty, the entire ship was tossed up, almost leaving the water's surface. A robust voice rang out. Duan-Yun had already seen the enormous creature underwater. 2 massive sea whales dove down, and as the water spouts they sprayed weakened, the Lady Beauty returned to the sea surface. Everything calmed down again. The Lady Beauty had narrowly escaped danger this time, and when Duan-Yun turned around to search for the iceberg with the woman frozen inside, it had already vanished into the sea mist. Duan-Yun even had the illusion that the woman didn't want to see him, and those 2 massive sea whales were possibly under her control. Because everything was just too coincidental. Later, the Lady Beauty continued sailing for a while longer. By then, the mist had finally dispersed, and everything returned to tranquility. Duan Yun told Ghost Foot 7 what he had seen, hoping to get some information from these seasoned seafarers. Ghost Foot 7, with fear in his eyes, shook his head and said, "I've heard of iceberg beauties, but never of beauties inside icebergs." He then added, "There are sea gods everywhere on this ocean, and they are so mysterious, many things are unclear. Because most who have seen the sea gods are dead. Those who survived by luck barely understand the situation." And it was indeed the first time Ghost Foot 7 met someone like Duan Yun, who had the leisure to observe a sea god and had even slain an entire sea god's family to study them. The lady probably wasn't afraid of sea gods, but as someone who spends long periods at sea, one cannot be entirely fearless. Yet this one before them truly gave off an air of invincibility. Is this the rumored newly acclaimed strongest demon, who also claims to be the strongest young hero, whom many call the hero demon, indeed as formidable as they say? In the afternoon, when the setting sun painted the entire sky in a fiery red hue, the smelly eagle was already waving and calling out. Everyone couldn't help but look outside. There, they could already see the coastline. They were finally about to arrive. Many started to cheer, sing, and dance, happier than during the New Year. The previously dancing lady swayed even more gently, making one suspect she might really turn into a snake and slither into some hole. With a loud clang, the Lady Beauty docked at the coastline, and people began to disembark. According to Ghost Foot 7, it wasn't far from here to Fusong's Fengwu City. Although some had previously set sail to try and be the first to reach Fusong to report the news and secure a place, the speed of those boats was far inferior to the Lady Beauty. Thus, Duan Yun and his group should be the first to arrive here. By now, many people were already lying on the beach, displaying expressions of infatuation. Holy land, I've finally arrived. In this lifetime, I've finally made it. Worth it. Seeing this, Duan Yun said, "Very well, so you're no longer pretending?" Only then did these people react, trying to kneel up. Yes, during this period traveling with Duan Yun, they found he hadn't done anything to them, and for a moment even started to feel Duan Yun wasn't that terrifying. Yet at this instant, seeing his handsome and serious face, all those previous fears resurfaced. They nervously said, "Young hero, no, it's not like that." They weren't planning to bow and submit like this but couldn't help it instinctively. Because in their minds, they always considered themselves Fusong people, merely born in Zhuzhou due to an accident, hoping to be Fusong in the next life. Upon reaching the Holy Land in their hearts, their emotions surged like a storm, as if a wandering soul finally returning home. Just who could resist this? Plus, Duan Yun seemed so amiable on the ship, so they just didn't care. By now, some regretted it, but it was already too late. Duan Yun didn't give them the chance to argue, or rather, explain. Before they finished speaking, sword chi like a red line had already pierced through their bodies, after which there were naturally gut-wrenching cries of pain. Duan Yun sheathed his sword and headed straight for Fengwu City with Ziyu. Those on the ground writhed in pain, some tenaciously crawling towards Fengwu City. They might perish in agony, but hadn't yet managed to inform Lord Hai. As long as they reached that place, and the lords knew the news, the old demon Duan would be walking right into a trap. On this holy land, old demon Duan would not be able to act recklessly and should brace for a downfall. The 10-layered spring rain sword chi was enough to drive a person insane with pain, yet some crazily retained their clarity. Because they longed to see the lords unleash their might and slay the demon. "Brother, take me over there to watch the show. I'll give you all my silver." "Who wants your filthy silver?" I'll give you my wife and concubines, just to see the spectacle." "Tell me about your wife and concubines." "Very curvy. Really curvy. Please take me to see. I want to see the demon-slaying feast." "All right. I'll take a dog like you to see how young hero Duan sweeps through this island." You! What do you mean you?" Realizing he couldn't do without the other party, the man humbled himself and said, "Please take me, just take me." "Agreed, your wife and concubines are mine." For a moment, the group heading to watch the spectacle noisily moved towards Fengwu City. The carriers and the carried wanted entirely different outcomes but temporarily set out hand in hand. Apart from the reason involving the wife and concubines, they wanted to see who was ultimately right. Fengwu City is the first city Duan Yun reached after crossing the sea to Fusang. He preferred to call it Fengwu City, because throughout the city, if not maple trees then phoenix trees, and during this season they provided plenty of shade. Duan Yun and Ziyu arrived first but didn't attract much attention. Because at first glance, aside from being a handsome man and a beautiful woman, they seemed quite ordinary and didn't attract much attention. After all, in Fusang, whether male or female, you have to act flamboyant just walking on the street to easily catch others' attention. On this island, most people are quite perverted with high thresholds for excitement. And Duan Yun and Ziyu's outward demeanor was simply too pure. But as more people arrived in Fengwu City, this group finally got attention. Because one or two didn't seem like much, but when a group of foreigners speaking a language other than Fusang appeared, it was enough to arouse vigilance. The islanders on Fusang Island are mostly xenophobic. Before, sea dogs came from afar to worship, ended up beheaded and mocked, which was no longer a novelty. Now, with so many outsiders arriving suddenly, the entire atmosphere of Fengwu City changed. Listening to Duan Yun and the others speaking the 9 provinces' language, all these Fusang people eyed them scrutinizingly. Some merely watching without care, like those wearing mink in summer and saying, "What are you looking at?" While many felt inferior, staying silent, bowing heads upon hearing their companions speak the 9 provinces' language, showing a lower stance. The ones feeling inferior and ashamed were mostly the people from high state. Numerous individuals from there yearned for this holy land, yet sometimes felt unworthy of breathing its air. These people, possibly very aggressive locally in high state, complained about everything, but here they behaved decently and cautiously, much like the sea dogs who came to worship, reflecting on their own faults rather than blaming the Fusang lords even when about to be beheaded. At this time, Duan Yun suddenly smelled roasted meat. He thought he hadn't eaten lunch yet, so he approached the barbecue shop nearby. As soon as he reached the entrance, a loud "Baka" suddenly sounded. A short, stout man stepped out, angrily ranting gibberish at Duan Yun. Duan Yun asked Ziyu, "What is he cursing about?" Ziyu frowned. He said that besides pigs and dogs, 9 provinces people aren't allowed inside. Then tell him that we, too, traveled across the ocean as lords from overseas, said Duan Yun. Ziyu translated for a while, after which the man couldn't help but burst into mocking laughter, followed by a burst of laughter from the patrons of the barbecue shop. It was as if they had just heard the funniest joke in the world. At this moment, the man respectfully pointed somewhere, speaking in a praising tone. He pointed to a black martial artist sitting there. The black man was clad in armor, his body black as coal, and he looked tall and quite imposing. Ziyu translated roughly, meaning that here, only black people count as true foreign lords. According to this person, this black foreign lord could freely kill Fusang people on the street, which they considered helping purify Fusang's race. Who would have thought, despite being of lower status than Fusang people in high state, black people would become the esteemed ones on Fusang soil instead? Each place has its own unique foreign lords. But Duan Yun was frustrated, wondering why there was no place for the 9 provinces martial world people among them. He had Ziyu translate, "Not allowing entry, is it your decision or your boss?" The one blocking the way mocked in Fusang language, "To stop a 9 provinces pig dog, no need for a boss. Get lost, or else you'll suffer consequences, and this woman must stay." As Ziyu was halfway through translating, there was a sudden booming sound. The blocking man shuddered, then fell. He could even see his own but lifting up as he fell like a wild goose landing on even ground. Because Duan Yun's punch landed squarely on his neck, crushing his head down intact. Until his body fell, the barbecue shop erupted with piercing screams. Because everything happened so quickly and unexpectedly. Who would have thought the 9 provinces pig dog, who had always come in worship, would dare to kill on the street? And killed so ruthlessly. Running a barbecue shop here obviously meant having some strength. In the next moment, 2 people in martial attire rushed out. But upon seeing the head, they froze momentarily. After a brief pause, they drew their swords toward Duan Yun and Ziyu, and before they knew it, their swords were lodged in their own necks, soundlessly. This time it wasn't Duan Yun who acted, but Ziyu. Against opponents of this level, Ziyu had reached the stage where your sword is my sword. Now these two here truly were crushingly overwhelming, easier than punching in a kindergarten. The patrons screamed and tried to flee. These people only thought of escaping now because they wanted to see if the guards could settle this. Clearly, they couldn't. "Sit down," Duan Yun ordered. These people likely didn't understand his words, but at this moment, they seemed to gain extraordinary wisdom, instantly grasping his meaning and sat down, sitting upright and proper. "Eat. Enjoy your food. How can one not eat?" As he spoke, he used his palm force to absorb the corpses and threw them out. He walked straight to a table and sat down, saying, "Serve the meat." Next to him, the dark-skinned warrior looked at him and cupped his hands, saying, "Your skills are impressive, sir. I am Yasuke. May I ask your name?" Duan Yun said in surprise, "You speak the language of the 9 provinces well." Yasuke replied, "I have traveled through Tianzhou, Taizhou, and the Yun state, so I have some understanding of the 9 provinces. Duan Yun responded, "You've done well killing them. These Fusang lowlifes need to be killed more for them to behave." Yasuke introduced. Duan Yun nodded. "They do deserve a beating, and that's exactly why I came." Outside, many people from the martial world of the 9 provinces who followed Duan Yun had various expressions. Many were just watching the spectacle, laughing and joking, treating it as an appetizer because they had witnessed the ruthlessness of young hero Duan, who spares no one deserving of death or torture. This is really just the appetizer. While others had sorrowful expressions. Many were sea dogs who had just endured immense pain. Yet they watched helplessly as the Fusang lords were killed on this sacred ground, unable to act, reminiscent of watching their spouse as the most incompetent husbands. "We have esteemed guests visiting. Failed to welcome you from afar. Please forgive us." At this moment, a gentle voice rang out. Soon, a woman dressed in a light green gauze outfit walked over like a snake. This method of moving was somewhat similar to the performance on the deck earlier but appeared more graceful. On the woman's snow-white belly were several plates, each holding various types of grilled meat. These meats were likely cut from different parts of a cow, paired with special seasonings for grilling, each with its distinct flavor. Yet, the tantalizing aroma of the meat was no match for the woman serving the dishes, because her swaying figure delivering the food could be described as captivating. "I am the owner of this shop. My servants were ignorant and offended you earlier, young master. If you desire anything, feel free to take it from me." She lay there and personally moved the dishes from her belly onto Duan Yun's table. Duan Yun couldn't help but comment, "Quite a few people on this island understand the language of the 9 provinces. It's just the way of the world. When you are strong, everything around you caters to you," and Duan Yun had just demonstrated his strength, hence the understanding of the language. Many people watching turned green-eyed, their hearts shattered, because the owner of this meat house was considered the most charming presence in Fengwu City. If there was any selection for top beauties, she would be the undisputed first choice. Usually, she was extremely aloof, only showing up for a drink when Yasuke, the Lord Hei, arrived. Now, she even used her body as a vessel, serving dishes to a 9 provinces pig in the most flattering way, which was a huge humiliation to them. Especially at this moment, seeing the boss's hospitality met with no favorable response from the other party heightened that feeling of being an incompetent husband. Some sea dogs had already shed tears of blood. Old Demon Duan was truly too wicked. Duan Yun placed a few slices of meat on the grill and said, "If the grilled meat tastes good, I might consider not killing your whole family." The female owner immediately collapsed, saying, "There's only me. If you don't kill my whole family, you don't kill me." Ziyu said with disgust, "I think the meat isn't tasty." The female owner instantly changed her expression, saying, "Lady, you and I have no grievances. Then, she looked at Duan Yun and pleaded, "Guest, I truly was unaware. I know my wrongs. Also, from the 9 provinces, I have a sister there who is quite renowned. Can you spare me?" Duan Yun ate the first rib and found the sauce quite good, just passing the first test, and said, "What sister?" "The Jade Guanyin, you must have heard of her. She's my sister." Duan Yun said in surprise, "Ah, so she's little Yin's mother." The female owner perked up immediately, unexpectedly meeting an acquaintance. "Then little Yin is my niece. May I ask who little Yin is to you?" Duan Yun continued eating meat and said, "My subordinate." Upon hearing this, the female owner felt a bit disappointed, but soon felt excited again. After all, a subordinate is an acquaintance, and she didn't know what level her niece had reached as a subordinate. You know, there's a saying, subordinates do the work, do nothing without a subordinate. Her niece must be extremely talented, possibly achieved such a level. Duan Yun finished the meat and continued, "And her mother's killer." There was a thunderous sound. Upon hearing this, the female owner's face turned ashen as if struck by lightning. Her sister's killer? The person in front of her killed her sister? No wonder her sister hadn't sent any letters in the past 2 years, nor had there been any reply to her letters. Her sister truly died? Died at his hands. At this moment, she was suddenly startled, realizing that the murderer of her sister was staring at her. For an instant, she felt goosebumps all over. Yuliner was always satisfied with her skills. She could make men swoon and go weak at the knees with just a few words, believing today she'd only need to use 30% of her charm against this man and wouldn't have any problems. But at this moment, she felt flustered, because she knew her sister's demeanor was far superior, and if her sister was brutally killed by this person, then facing such a cold-hearted man, her charming skill might not be effective. "Oh, so you're the Jade Guanin's sister," Duan Yun said with interest. No wonder he felt the charm from the other person was somewhat reminiscent of the Jade Guanin from back then. Can only be said to be fate. Meeting an enemy's family in a foreign land is also a kind of fate. The female owner Yulina refuted, saying, "She's not exactly my sister, just a distant cousin. We're not very familiar and haven't met for many years." At this point, Duan Yun put down his chopsticks, and everyone's spirits tightened. Putting down the chopsticks is like smashing a cup as a signal. Someone is going to die. But then Duan Yun said, "You don't have to die. The grilled meat tastes all right. What he says goes. If he says the taste is enough to spare, it happens." This woman is clearly a troublemaker. Staying in Fusang to continue causing trouble for these people poses no problem. Really, truly? The female owner Yuliner, known in Fusang as Shinkata Rinko, after hearing the desired answer, instead of relaxing, felt even more nervous. Because some old demons love playing tricks on people, for example saying they respect women, don't kill women, only to turn around and cut them down. Could this sister's killer before her be the same? At this moment, Duan Yun suddenly looked at the other people in the meat house and asked, "Eat. Why don't you eat? Do you have an opinion about me? Can't eat anymore?" Almost simultaneously, someone translated Duan Yun's words. Also, almost simultaneously, everyone began wolfing down their food, extremely obedient. With some grilled meat scorching their mouths, these guests dared not stop, continuously stuffing their mouths, fearful of not eating and thus facing consequences. Many people's mouths blistered from the heat, yet they dared not stop. Where did this calamity god come from? Currently, Duan Yun was more terrifying than any ghost demanding lives in their eyes. "Lord Lu Ma, come quickly. Save us, come quickly." As long as Lord Lu Ma arrives, everything will be resolved. The so-called Lord Lu Ma refers to 2 twin brothers known as the Lu Ma brothers. They are the city lord and deputy city lord of Fengwu City, the top 2 martial artists, top 2 rich men, and top 2 collectors of wives. Whoever's wife was a bit beautiful essentially had some relationship with the brothers. Because Lord Lu Ma loves pretty wives, they could only let their wives seek comfort. If anyone married a beautiful wife and didn't send her to the Lu mansion, it showed a lack of understanding. If they lacked understanding, they'd suffer. Although Lord Lu Ma loves wives, forcing many to painfully send them, he's also reliable. If you truly need help, even if your wife hasn't whispered sweet nothings in his ear, they'll help generously. At this moment, all hopes were pinned on Lord Lu Ma. As long as they await Lord Lu Ma's arrival, it was time to end this absurd drama. Otherwise, these outsider pigs will look down on them. Unknown to outsiders, they'd think there's no hero around. The situation at the barbecue tavern had already spread throughout Fengwu City. Upon hearing that a young man from Zhou dared to randomly kill people here, their minds were immediately filled with confusion. Isn't the only one who can kill at will here Lord He? What followed was anger. They didn't dare offend Lord He, but couldn't they deal with a beggar from Zhou? However, when they arrived there filled with righteous indignation, they became fearful again. Outside were fresh corpses, and inside the store, the owner, known as the most beautiful woman in Fengwu, was either kneeling or lying down to serve the young man. Around them were people with heads down eating barbecue, eating so obediently that they dared not stop, and after finishing the meat they even started eating the bamboo skewers. And Duan Yun, sitting arrogantly there, could be described as engulfed in a demonic flame. The crowd decided to retreat from this evil demon. The buggers seemed to understand when to advance and retreat, and in no time they returned, fearing being implicated. But there were exceptions. 13 men and women with swords stood there without retreating a step. They were Fusang martial artists, always promoting the samurai spirit. Even facing the demon, they didn't retreat a step. Thus, they stood outside watching helplessly, watching the extraordinarily beautiful owner fawn and plead while serving the Zhou pig, their eyes almost shedding tears of blood. Yet they could only continue to watch helplessly, because they knew well that the owner Shinkata Rinko was also a master. If she had to submit, that person must be a master among masters, and they were not opponents. Suddenly, a few streams of blood light floated out. 4 of the 13 Fusang warriors were already beheaded. This was because Duan Yun felt this group of little Huzi staring at him was truly affecting his meal. How can a person not eat properly? Quick, retreat! The remaining Fusang warriors had long lost their samurai spirit, scared and hastened to flee. But it was too late. Interrupted young hero Duan's meal and still want to run? 16 strange fists were fiercely launched, and these people screamed and fell to the ground. Falling to the ground was one thing, but even more terrifying was that some of them, while coughing up blood, were shouting, "I want to be a hero." Understand that this group of warriors were native Fusang people, disdainful and unknowing of any Zhou language, yet at this moment, they were all shouting, "I want to be a hero." This scene was simply more horrifying than ghosts. Even they didn't know why they were saying this, only feeling a strong will burst into their mind, completely irresistible. No, I am a samurai. Their consistent samurai spirit was to kill, using all their strength and spirit to kill, but this conflicted with the emerging will of, I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero also involves killing, but not with the spirit of the samurai. The intertwining wills caused them extreme discomfort. Yame butterfly. The Fusang warriors' bodies received painful punches, their spirits tormented by the conflicting will, unable to endure. They all chose to kneel and commit suicide. 13 warriors, one died faster than the other, and in an instant they were all dead. This caused the onlookers to run even further. This young man from Zhou was truly sinister, probably could even rival their Sadako. For a while, the guests inside the barbecue tavern sat on pins and needles even more, eating vigorously, completely afraid to raise their heads, as if merely meeting the gaze of this outsider would mean certain death. Baka! This Zhou guy is sinister to the core of his being. Even though Duan Yun had already finished eating, owner Shinkata Rinko continued to lie, providing extreme service that was unique to Fusang natives. I wonder, Fusang people serving others truly have a set of rituals, kneeling at every turn, exposing their chests, whispering secrets here and there, giving a genuine sense of being at home. Provided that you are stronger than them, much stronger, at least full of martial virtue and ruthless. Otherwise they are a pack of wolves eating meat, treating you as a pig or dog to be slaughtered. With the henchmen dead, and a bunch of warriors dying in such sinister and eerie ways, the atmosphere of Fengwu City became even more bizarre. This feeling was like a pig you raised sitting in your chair, beating your child, sleeping with your wife, yet you can only watch helplessly. How absurd, yet how powerless. And at this moment, the whole city was eagerly awaiting two people. Two people almost like one. Their great city lord, the Deer and Horse Brothers. Deer and Horse Brothers, truly an existence capable of subduing demons. As long as they arrive, everything is no problem. By this time, Duan Yun had eaten almost enough. Eating too much meat always gives one a dizzying feeling, so he directly lay down, planning to nap for a while. Despite being surrounded by numerous enemies who wished him dead, he slept peacefully. Ziyu also sat there, nodding off. This pair's attitude showed they really didn't take Fengwu City seriously. Many Fusang martial artists couldn't help but be angered, but seeing those corpses still there, remembering the scene of them shouting, "I want to be a hero," before dying, they could only feel a moment of anger, not daring any action. Let alone those outside martial artists. Even the diners inside the barbecue tavern, whose mouths were now scorched ablaze, still dared not stop. Because Duan Yun wanted them to eat, he hadn't said stop, so they dared not stop. Meanwhile, the boss, Shinkata Meiji, still knelt there, without rising, showing an obedient attitude awaiting orders. The atmosphere was terrifyingly oppressive, for everything in front of them could be said to be the shame of Fengwu City. Suddenly, a deep voice sounded, jolting everyone's spirits. "Meiji, you don't need to kneel anymore." At that moment, a deep voice resounded once more. Everyone was delighted, because at this time, 5 people were striding forward. In the lead, wearing deer and horse head masks. Who else could they be but the awaited Lord Deer and Horse? The voice arrived before the people did. The mere presence was enough to reveal their strength. Duan Yun and Ziyu awoke, and immediately saw the 5 striding towards them. Shinkata Meiji remained kneeling, not rising. The deer head repeated again, "Shinkata Meiji, I asked you to stand up." He wore a mask, so his age was indiscernible, but his voice was not very old, yet it carried an inherent majesty. Now she listens only to this gentleman. In front of the Deer and Horse Brothers, Shinkata Meiji continued to kneel respectfully, even showing deference towards Duan Yun. This made the Deer and Horse Brothers lose face. Even though they wore masks, everyone could feel their embarrassment. Because what Shinkata Meiji said was no different from saying they were not comparable to this man in front of her. As the city's master, as the absolute overlord here, this was undoubtedly an insult. A massive insult. But soon, the horse-head brother sneered and said something in Fusang language. Ziyu translated, indicating that Shinkata Meiji was trying to provoke them, hoping they would properly deal with Duan Yun. At this moment, the horse-head looked towards Duan Yun and spoke at length. When he finished speaking, one of the men among them stepped forward. The meaning was clear, that Duan Yun was not worthy of challenging the 2 brothers until he passed this man's test. Ziyu stepped forward straightforwardly, her meaning also clear that to challenge Duan Yun, they would have to go through her first. This time it was a contest between subordinates. This was a common operation in the martial world, usually fighting the small before the big, then the elder. When they saw Ziyu stepping out, the man in the golden robe appeared even more confident. He wasn't tall, even a bit short, but at this moment he gave off a tall and mighty presence. Earlier, standing there he seemed inconspicuous, anonymous among the deer head and horse faces retinue, but at this moment, his demeanor had transformed. Looking at him, it seemed the deer head and horse face were instead his underlings. Ziyu's expression became a bit more serious. For someone who could change their demeanor in an instant was definitely a master. With a swish, a dark golden ball slid out from the man's golden sleeve. At that moment, someone couldn't help but exclaim. The voice came from the Jojo side, because once the ball appeared, someone recognized the man's identity. See Cucumber Gang leader. Previously, When Duan Yun traveled across the sea, he killed the sea god family, and from the sea god's corpse, a ball filled with human remains was discovered, and someone recognized the Sea Cucumber Gang's attire. They thought the Sea Cucumber Gang had been completely wiped out in a sea god attack during a grand sea banquet, but unexpectedly, their gang leader was still alive. Somehow, he had become a subordinate of the Deer and Horse brothers. "Miss, want to play ball?" Just as the words fell, the Sea Cucumber Gang leader Li Kan kicked out, and the seemingly heavy dark golden iron ball instantly formed an eerie arc, attacking Ziyu. Ziyu extended her sword, and in the moment the sword light illuminated the hall, her sword was already unsheathed. With a clang, the sword and the iron ball collided, the sound muffled. Immediately following was a grating sound that made one's teeth ache. That was the sound of the iron ball spinning madly against the sword. In Ziyu's senses, the iron ball seemed to have a strange stickiness, clinging to her sword, making her arm feel heavier. Swish! With a burst of true chi, Ziyu shook her sword, sending the iron ball flying. At that moment, Li Kan's figure flashed, soaring into the air, executing a flying golden hook, striking the iron ball hard. The next moment, the iron ball suddenly accelerated, spinning, tearing through the air, hurtling towards Ziyu like a cannonball. Ziyu raised her sword to block, the high-speed spinning ball crashing against her, pushing her backward. Her feet landed and held firm, yet left two deep grooves in the ground, showing the terrifying force of that kick. After retreating a dozen steps, Ziyu stabilized her stance. When Li Kan stood there, his right foot lifted high behind, muscles bulging, his form like a fully drawn bow, filled with terrifying power. "Little sister, here comes another one." As the words fell, another dark golden iron ball dropped from his sleeve, kicked fiercely as he lifted his foot high, soaring out. If he was like a bow drawn full of tension, then at that moment this newly kicked ball was like an arrow shot off the string. Ziyu just shook off the ball sticking to her sword when she saw another ball flying like a cannonball. She quickly turned to dodge. With a boom, the iron ball smashed into the ground, stones flying like rain, the force brute, leaving countless small craters around. Two diners, unable to dodge in time, had their bodies hit and riddled with bloody holes, crying out in agony. At this point, the Sea Cucumber Gang leader Li Kan had already appeared next to the ball again, kicking it out. Li Kan moved swiftly, leaving trails of afterimages in the room, the air filled with the whooshing sound of his iron balls speeding by. The iron balls darted around the barbecue shop, bouncing off walls and floors, spinning and rebounding, some tracing eerie arcs, making them impossible to defend against. Though there were only 3 iron balls, it felt like over a dozen were crashing around. Despite Li Kan being alone, one could mistake him for an entire soccer team. The walls and floor were riddled with holes. Ziyu found her movement space shrinking. Li Kan's footwork grew even faster, and the confidence in his eyes intensified. Moon-shielding, light-shaming sword. At that moment, the treasure sword in Ziyu's hand emitted a sudden burst of white light, causing everyone to squint. Then, the mirror-like sword light abruptly rose, reflecting everything around. Li Kan was also reflected within. In that instant, his confidence evaporated, replaced by emotions of shame and bewilderment. The sword light was bizarre, seemingly able to illuminate filth and hidden insecurities. Li Kan, who appeared as a sunny and cheerful soccer-loving young man, was, at his core, insecure. Especially at this moment, with the sword light reflecting him like a mirror. He couldn't help but recall that long-forgotten past. A past he never wanted to remember. Li Kan had loved playing soccer since childhood. It was one of the few joys among his village peers. Li Kan was, by nature, deeply addicted, also quite skilled. At least in his hometown village, he could easily beat a bunch of kids. And his hometown happened to have a girl he was enamored with, the village belle. The village belle had a good relationship with him, and every night he'd think about marrying her, too excited to sleep. But one day, a kid from the neighboring village, around the same age, kept bothering the village belle. The village belle seemed unperturbed, Yet Li Kan was annoyed, and in their bickering they decided to settle things with a soccer match, deciding to whom the village bell belonged. Li Kan had absolute confidence in soccer, as if he could already see the ending. But the result? Darned, in the time it takes a stick of incense to burn, he got beaten 7-0. Afterwards, much like the sky had fallen, the village bell was lost, and his beloved soccer became a laughingstock. Later, he caught a colorful sea cucumber in the sea. At night, the sea cucumber appeared in his dream, promising reward if freed. The next day, Li Kan ate the colorful sea cucumber. Whether the sea cucumber repaid him or not he didn't know. What he knew was it was surely divine, making him invincible. Then, naturally, his power surged. Despite never practicing, he became better than martial arts masters. Later, his divine skill reached perfection. He kicked the head of the village bell's husband, the man who had scored 7 against him, like a soccer ball. The village bell, weeping during mourning, reminded him that she hadn't remained chaste for him but married according to the result. He kicked her head too. Those who humiliated him died painfully, yet the 7-0 remained a nightmare deep inside him. Because that day he felt like he lost everything. The sword light reflected his buried insecurities. In an instant, Li Kan slowed down, his spirit weakened, because his skill was connected to his confidence and spirit. When he abruptly tried to rekindle his spirit, it was too late. Mirror-like sword light refracted the sun's rays, penetrating his eyes like substance, causing intense burning pain. His eyes felt ablaze as he smelled a scorched odor. With a swish, the sword light swirled past his neck. Ziyu sheathed her sword. The once aggressive iron balls fell weakly to the ground. At this moment, a deer-headed horse-faced figure stepped forward. Horseface said, "Useless thing. Didn't expect US brothers would really need to act against Jojo's evil demon. There's no need for samurai spirit. Let's go together. All right? I'm free. I'm free." And as those words fell, the masks emitted a ghastly shriek, from which 2 evil spirits emerged, rushing towards Duan Yun. Duan Yun perplexed. Dharma image? 2 evil ghosts suddenly emerged from the mask, one with a deer head and a ghostly face, the other with a zombie horse face. Even from a distance, they send chills down one's spine, as if trapped in an ice cellar. But what about Duan Yun first in line? Like falling into hell? 2 hands holding bone-scraping knives, rushing straight towards Duan Yun. Duan Yun felt a gust of chilling air rushing at him, finding it somewhat interesting. If this is Dharma image, then its level isn't low, at least to the point of having substance. It's known that both Qing and Little Yu reached this level only after being tempered by lightning. This proves that these two have some substance. Buzz when Ro unsheathed. The blade, as thin as cicada wings, emitted a sound similar to a zither. In the martial world, there's a style called sword courage zither sound, where sword experts use their swords like instruments, producing a sound akin to an ancient zither, enchanting countless men and women into a daze. Just like the most famous Shiman Xiaoxua once, dark-skinned and short, even bald, yet relying on this sword courage zither sound, mesmerized many women into madness, eager to have children with him immediately. And now Duan Yun is in a similar situation. But the difference from sword courage zither sound is his is knife courage zither sound, and it's electrical music, because Duan Yun added thunder and lightning into it. A sound similar to an electric guitar rang out, and sword chi, instantly carrying electric arcs, flew out, clashing with the 2 evil ghosts. The 2 evil ghosts were forced to retreat, emitting continuous chilling ghostly wails. Yet they displayed enough ferocity, and the bone-scraping knives in their hands continued to smash towards Duan Yun. Clang, sparks flew. Facing the chopping evil ghost bone-scraping knife, Duan Yun's breaking body sword energy spiraled out, firmly blocking it. Or one could say, Duan Yun didn't care about this knife, because it couldn't break through his defense at all. Sure enough, breaking body sword energy not only blocked the knife, but because of the fresh death energy around, continuously absorbed the death energy, ready to strike. Duan Yun watched as the evil ghosts remained stubbornly persistent. Their blade shook. He couldn't help but prepare to strike with force. But at that moment of gathering strength, the deer-head horseface brothers rushed over like a gust of wind. They were incredibly fast. Duan Yun always felt there was mutual attraction like magnets between him and the opponent, drawn together in an instant. The brothers' swift moves reached out like eagles, aiming to grapple and throw Duan Yun. They were using a technique similar to the big monument hand. Not particularly wonderful, a skill usually known by martial artists good at combat. A move like this could never catch Duan Yun. Yet, bizarrely, Duan Yun was indeed caught by them. Ziyu was astonished at the sight. Not to mention Ziyu, even Duan Yun was surprised. Their move seemed to construct a cage, locking him inside, unavoidable. It's akin to his heart-to-heart clasp. The spectating Fusang people perked up instantly, unable to resist wanting to scream cheerfully. In the 9 provinces martial world, those suffering from residual sword chi pain yet seeing this instantly shone in their eyes, shouting happily, "Great! Lord Hai is invincible," and such. Indeed, worthy of the Fengwu city's strongest, the Lord Hai brothers. Their move amazed everyone, completely suppressing old demon Duan, firmly occupying the upper hand. Upon catching Duan Yun, the deer-head horseface brothers' eyes also brightened, showing fervent and excited glows behind the masks. This is their brother's killer move, Wailing Hand, never failed since debut. Wailing Hand means once encountering these hands, you've met Yama claiming lives, resulting only in wailing, never surviving. And beneath these hands, there's indeed no survivor. This 9 provinces expert might have some tricks, possibly sparkling in other cities, but unfortunate to meet them. Once Wailing Hand initiates, it absolutely won't stop. Left and right, upon grabbing Duan Yun, their arms naturally rotated, slamming Duan Yun harshly towards the ground. The entire process flowed smoothly, without the slightest pause, as if their body's strongest instinct. Such instinct naturally erupts with the most terrifying power. Instantly, the surrounding air flowed with their arms, like water. This sign clearly signifies power capable enough to split mountains and break valleys. Even standing hundreds of paces away, people couldn't help but retreat, as if the tremor from this slam could injure people. Bala! The imagined heaven-shattering sound didn't appear. Duan Yun lay on the ground. Though the stone slabs had cracked into a spider web, the range of cracks wasn't vast. At this moment, the deer-head horseface brothers were baffled and shocked. Their last Wailing Hand slam was solid, capable of crushing a giant elephant to death, turning it into meat paste. Yet, they just felt like slamming a paper when they slammed this 9 provinces young expert. A weightless piece of paper. The giant elephant can be smashed into meat paste, which can be braised and served with rice, but smashing paper into paste isn't so easy. Therefore, Duan Yun still lives, not turning into paste without any visible harm. The spring rain blade power evolved soft strength rotation, effectively counters all throwing, especially slamming. Surprised as they were, the brothers' killing intent didn't dissipate. The 2 brothers seemed to have a telepathic connection, once again unleashing the Wailing Hand together. As the muscles in their arms bulged, the air around them moved like flowing water again, and this time, it even echoed with ghostly wails. This was the full exertion of the Lu Shou and Ma Mian brothers, without holding back at all. This time, even paper would be smashed to bits. Crash! A similar sound rang out, with Duan Yun being slammed to the ground again. Yet he was still alive, and his hair wasn't even ruffled much. Duan Yun looked at them and said, "Can't even throw properly, yet you call yourselves gangsters? Ah! Ah!" The 2 brothers felt something was wrong and quickly leapt back, trying to distance themselves from Duan Yun. Even in retreat, the 2 acted in sync. Regrettably, they were too slow. Duan Yun seemed to anticipate their moves long before, for just as they leapt back, he had already extended his hand to grab them. From the outside, it looked like the 2 brothers had just leapt into the air and were forcefully pulled back. The seals were about to cry with anxiety. Old demon Duan is so shameless, clinging on persistently. Lu Shou and Ma Mian brothers, once caught, wasted no time in delivering a straight thrust backward. If earlier Duan Yun seemed to have anticipated their moves by holding their hands, then in this moment, the telepathic and ruthless counterattack of the brothers felt as if they were anticipating Duan Yun's anticipation. The seals, who were about to praise, only heard two cursing screams, and Duan Yun, who was supposed to be heavily injured by the attack, still stood there, while the screams came from Lu Shou and Ma Mian. Instead of piercing Duan Yun's temples as intended, their hands had gone into each other's nostrils. Just now, they only felt a spinning force from Duan Yun that altered the direction of their thrusts. The attack was heavy and relentless, meant to be fatal, leaving them gravely injured now. Their noses exploded with blood spraying everywhere, even cracking the masks on their faces halfway. Nonetheless, the brothers were ruthless enough that even with their noses split, they let out a shout and kept attacking Duan Yun. This time, they dared not use their hands but their feet instead. Simultaneously, they swung their bloody noses, trying to use the blood as cover while decisively attempting a knee strike towards Duan Yun's flanks. But Duan Yun's waist twisted like a Sinister move, evading easily. The brothers dare not stop, transforming their attack from a strike to a horizontal sweep. Yet Duan Yun dodged the same way. To the audience, as long as Duan Yun twisted his Sinister move, no matter how fierce the brothers' attacks were, they couldn't touch him. Damn, old demon Duan only knows this trick. Many seals grumbled vehemently. But as soon as their grumbling ended, the scene changed once more, only to see Duan Yun shaking the brothers' shoulders, leading both to twist like Sinister alongside him. In no time, the three twisted Sinister together. A scene originally intense and fierce, now carried a touch of celebration. To an outsider, it might seem like three drunk friends singing and dancing joyously. Since the rotational force of spring rain could integrate into his body, anyone engaging him in intense body techniques, the only match Duan Yun could think of was Ming Xing from Mingyu Palace, because their shifting flower and wood technique was truly miraculous. The Lu Shou and Ma Mian brothers, with Wailing Hand as their foundation, believed no one could best them in close combat, only to cry out when facing them. Who knew today the ones about to cry were themselves? Once Duan Yun adhered to them, no matter the effort, it felt like a clay ox entering the sea. Worse now, they felt their bodies weren't theirs anymore. Even if lying with a lady now, they couldn't be sure they'd sense their own body. Something was wrong. Their bodies were about to be ruined. Jamei. Before their mouths formed the word butterfly, Duan Yun had already interrupted them. Because the term coming from a woman's mouth might have charm, from a man's mouth, only a small part in Yun you might appreciate it. Duan Yun certainly wasn't part of that small group. So he sent the two brothers crashing into each other, getting thoroughly stuck, even achieving negative distance. The sound of bones and flesh breaking echoed, chilling to the core, soon followed by distressing cries. Because when they collided, their skin fused, and being forcibly torn apart by Duan Yun was excruciatingly painful. When they parted, they were unrecognizable, their bodies seemingly flattened. Witnessing this, many from Fusang and the seals shed tears, especially many seals, flowing tears like blood. The unbeatable city lord is down. The unbeatable Lord Hai is down. To them, it was terrifying and tragic. In Fusang's homeland, except when Lord Hai casually rides over them, they rarely face humiliation from Jiuzhou, whom they considered lower. Yet such was the truth. No, it wasn't enough. What broke the seals' hearts was seeing the two lords kneeling before Duan Yun, begging, Yame, Yame father. Yame, Yame father. Meiji, translate. Oli Siwa, Sawasa. Kneeling there and kowtowing while incoherently pleading. Shinkata Meiji explained that the brothers were disciples of the great heavenly dog, begging Duan Yun to spare them on account of their master. Even someone of our status kneels, and you're still not satisfied? The brother howled. They were esteemed Fusang city lords, direct disciples of the great heavenly dog. Even if not for them, he should show respect for their master, right? If not, This outsider martial artist was extremely disrespectful. Duan Yun grabbed Ma Mian's hair and said, "The great heavenly dog? Eh? I only wanted to borrow a sword. Seeing he taught disciples like you, he's no good either. Rest assured, your master will soon join you." With that, he clapped both hands on the brothers' heads. Beaming divine skill. Rumble. A horrible suction suddenly appeared, distorting their faces. Their true chi carried malice, resembling the evil Dharma image from before. From these memory fragments, Duan Yun discerned that aside from their monstrous nature as Fusang people, they were no good. Their wicked Dharma image formed through some feeding technique. The masks they wore were like half-living entities, housing an insect that thrived on the heart's blood of the living to grow stronger. Heaven knows how many hearts they harvested for nourishment. In Fusang, they were somewhat cautious, even planning if they should head to Jiuzhou for prospects. In their eyes, Jiuzhou's vast populace was beneath dogs and pigs, to be freely slaughtered, for ghost mask provisions. This technique naturally taught by their master, the great heavenly dog. Thus, Duan Yun added another name to his list, the great heavenly dog. The great heavenly dog and God Ju were top martial arts grandmasters in Fusang. Unlike God Ju, who early revealed ambitions for world domination, the great heavenly dog seemed a reclusive master, rarely involving himself in conflicts. But in truth, he'd been secretly plotting, like with these city lord brothers. Without their own admission, no one would know they were his pawns. Feeling the stink and pollution of Fusang martial artists' true chi, Duan Yun decided to return all the absorbed chi. So with a release, he returned their true chi. Then came two explosive sounds, and before everyone's eyes, the two men burst like balloons, scattering everywhere. Suddenly, everything fell silent, until someone shouted, "Amazing! Young hero Duan is truly amazing!" breaking the silence at last. Those supporting Duan Yun among the 9 provinces martial world had been the ones shouting, "Amazing!" Whereas seals shouted before, they now returned it all. Doubled their return. Some seals, already fragile inside, couldn't endure the blow and, in fury and heartache, died of heartache. How could there be such wicked people in this world? My poor gentle lord. Oh, their cries in dying truly felt like mourning. The city lord with the deer head and horse face, who was expected to achieve great things, appeared. The city lord with the deer head and horse face completely dominated. Lord High forever. Old Demon Duan was at a complete disadvantage. Old Demon Duan was smashed. Old Demon Duan was smashed again. Old Demon Duan's fate was sealed. Old Demon Duan declared victory. The corpse with the deer head and horse face lay there, unmistakably genuine. Duan Yun continued to stand there, appearing harmless to humans and animals alike, even giving off the impression of a gynecologist with a compassionate heart, yet giving a significant sense of oppression. At this moment, the barbecue shop owner Shinkata Meiji, who had always claimed to serve Duan Yun, knelt down even more thoroughly. Afterward, Duan Yun waved to Ziyu, planning to leave. However, as soon as he lifted his foot, Shinkata Meiji was already at his feet, saying, "Please, young hero, step on me as you leave." Duan Yun hesitated for a moment, finally stepping on the back of her neck and walking out. Almost without any hesitation, those remaining Fusang diners rushed to kneel before Duan Yun, wanting him to step on them as he left. Duan Yun's feet fell one by one, stepping on their heads. "No, don't kneel. No. How can Lord High use his head as a cushion to let a martial world demon step on it? He is just like me, both lowborn from martial world." At this time, those who had not died in pain or anger were considered the strong ones among the Fusang sea dogs. But watching Duan Yun stepping on their sacred Lord High of Fusang like a cushion, this strong group of sea dogs was numb with pain. Such treatment was something even Lord Hei Yasuke had never possessed, yet it was happening to a person from martial world. Is this reasonable? Is this still a normal world? To what extent does this have to overturn the heavenly gang? Tired, really tired, let it be destroyed. And the strongest sea dogs were still watching enduringly. They did not shed tears. They could even join the crowd in laughing together. But only they themselves knew their tears of blood were flowing inside. And they knew this was all temporary. Old Demon Duan could only show off in this city. The martial world of Fusang is deep and vast. They were well aware that the favor Duan Yun granted today, the skilled fighters of Lord Hai of Fusang would surely repay Old Demon Duan twice over someday. Old Demon Duan dared to break through Fusang martial world. They were waiting for the day when Old Demon Duan would be beaten to the ground and beg for mercy, waiting steadfastly. Yes, although full of pain, it was also a day full of hope. Lord Hai, Ganbat, the sea dogs were praying in their hearts with clumsy Fusang language. Not to mention the barbecue shop owner and diners from before. Now Duan Yun was walking on the streets of Fangwu City. Many Fusang people nodded obsequiously, kneeling on the ground letting him step on their heads. Many people originally wanted to hide from him, but at some point the Young Hero Survival Guide spread throughout the city, meaning that the young hero is like Sadako, unavoidable, and the way to survive when meeting him was to exhaustion try to curry favor with him. Now that they knew this demon liked to step on people, how could they not let him step? Some even brought their wives to let this demon step. This Fangwu City, moments ago, forbade boars and martial world people entry. Now the entire city was being stepped on the head by a martial world person like a meat cushion. This change was truly too enormous. This was Duan Yun's first day on Fusang Island. A day he spent quite fully, and then it was gone. And for countless people yearning for the holy land of Fusang, this was a day when the sky fell. They did not expect Old Demon Duan would dare strike Lord Hai of Fusang so heavily. Duan Yun left Fangwu City, but his legend would not stop. Because of him, Fangwu City had already become a city without a master. Because both the city lord and deputy city lord brothers were dead. The first group of sea dogs were originally in so much pain they could not breathe, but when the second group arrived, they repeated the experiences of the predecessors. They couldn't witness Old Demon Duan killing the great Lord Hai, but the scene of stepping on all the heads of Lord Hai in the city, while leaving kept them awake all night, continuously praying for Lord Hai and cursing the exceedingly bad Old Demon Duan. Night, bonfire. Duan Yun and Ziyu sat in the courtyard of an abandoned temple, roasting a fire, to prevent someone from tipping off the wicked Fusang boars. Allowing them to escape, they departed early. Currently, besides the two of them, hardly anyone should know where they are going or who they intend to kill, because even they themselves did not know where this was. At this time, the world was dim. No firelight was visible nearby, so tonight they should be sleeping in this wilderness. To say wilderness isn't really accurate, because the place where they were should be an abandoned temple or shrine. The torii gate at the bottom was still somewhat intact, just faded, but the buildings inside the shrine were completely ruined. Half of them collapsed. Surrounded by a pitch-black forest, the fallen statue had only half its body, giving off a ghostly air. Ziyu sat in front of the fire, still feeling a bit cold, unable to help but say, "It always feels like this place is not clean." Duan Yun replied, "This place was dirty to begin with, people too." Ziyu added, "I mean, this place is sinister. Maybe there are ghosts." According to the locals of Fusang, the gods on this island are thousands. Actually, most of them could be called ghosts and evil things. Duan Yun said, "That's undoubtedly what this place deserves." Ha! Since approaching Fusang from the sea, they had encountered strange occurrences, such as the long woman frozen in an iceberg. It was hard to say she wasn't a ghost or evil spirit. When they arrived at Fangwu City, something resembling apparitions emerged from the deer-headed horse-faced mask. Duan Yun initially thought it was a Dharma image, but upon absorbing the memories of the deer-headed horse-face, he discovered it was not. Inside the mask was a bizarre human-faced worm that needed to consume human heart's blood to survive, and had formed a symbiotic relationship with these two brothers. The reason there were so many strange things in this Fusang region was likely related to the local magnetic field. Duan Yun was previously caught and thrown to the ground by the deer-headed horse-face, which surprised him. Because there was a gap in strength between him and the two brothers, no matter how fast or strong they were, it would be difficult to catch him, yet at that moment he was truly caught. He felt as if these two had a magnet on them, attracting him, making it difficult for him to escape. In fact, that feeling was correct but not accurate. They were manipulating the surrounding magnetic field, forming a grasping technique based on the magnetic field, reaching a level where it was unavoidable. Thus, Duan Yun felt that this great heavenly dog might not be an easy opponent to deal with, because the moves of these two apprentices were precisely taught by him, showing that this person had a rather unique understanding of the magnetic field's rotation. This was quite similar to him, and since the opponent was a local, they should be more familiar with the magnetic field here, which could give them an advantage. The reasons the palace nobility dared not seek the sword then might have also been due to this, but these weren't issues for Duan Yun. With his extraordinary wisdom, he didn't believe this great heavenly dog could defeat him in a confrontation involving magnetic fields. Nobody understood the magnetic field better than him. Therefore, compared to the lands of Zhou, the magnetic field in this region was inherently more prone to ghostly manifestations. Even in Zhou, he could encounter evil things like zombies, so encountering ghosts here was quite normal. It's like the horror stories Zhou kids hear, usually about entities like Xiong Japa eating human fingers, whereas Fusang people hear more about Sadako and Kayako or the Snow Woman and the likes. This was just a regional feature. Duan Yun didn't worry about such things, as he possessed boundless heroic qi. Whether gods or ghosts dared provoke him, they would face dire consequences. But the same couldn't be said for Ziyu. Ziyu was a writer prone to wild imaginings. For example, upon seeing Duan Yun, she might think of all sorts of scenarios of him without clothes. And now, seeing the abandoned shrine, she imagined countless scenes related to terrifying malevolent spirits. It didn't take long before Duan Yun went to sleep on the altar. Indeed, the deity statue once on the altar had long since fallen, with only half of its body remaining, which Duan Yun conveniently used for sleeping. Ziyu couldn't sleep and continued sitting by the campfire, though she felt the place was eerie and frightening, especially when the wind blew and the wild grass and trees around swayed as if hiding many sinister things. The more it was like this, the more excited she became. She, Fairy Ziyu, ranked among the top writers. Countless people like Duan Yun sought her out, desiring to feed her personally because of her powerful writing ability. Her exceptional writing wasn't only due to her being a rare talent but also because of her strong and intense curiosity. She had not written ghost stories before. Once, for the sake of a story about zombies, she stayed for several days and nights in a mortuary in Yuanling, deeply absorbing the atmosphere, thus creating a well-received story titled, "I Had a Forbidden and Aberrant Romance with a Zombie." To write about demons, she even risked having her innocence tarnished by Duan Yun, enduring intense hardships, so what else would she dare not try? And at this moment, Ziyu found herself in such a scenario once again. On one side, Duan Yun lay deeply asleep on the altar in the shape of the character Ta, his breathing steady and even audible from within. Ziyu felt that wasn't thrilling enough. After all, with Duan Yun lying there was a feeling of overwhelming demon flames. Countless vengeful spirits of entire families slain by him, making ordinary spirits fearful of approaching. Fortunately, this shrine was quite large. In search of inspiration, Ziyu ventured directly to the back of the shrine. The shrine seemed divided between the front and the back mountain, and was of considerable scale. The moss-covered stone steps were mixed with remnants of red incense wax, indicating a time of prosperity and flourishing incense offerings. After walking up a long flight of stone steps, the back mountain appeared more secluded. The collapsed or toppled structures resembled to Ziyu giant corpses yet to thoroughly decay. Upon the back mountain stood a massive tree beneath which lay a well. In the dim twilight, only a blurry outline was visible. In the next instant, Ziyu suddenly stepped back. A snake! Originally tense, she was startled by the shadow of a large snake coiled there. Upon closer inspection, Ziyu realized it wasn't a snake at all but a sculpture. She finally understood the deity this shrine venerated. Judging by the half of its torso and head, it was hard to glimpse its full form. And the remaining half was here. It appeared to be a pointed snake covered in feathers. The feathers on the snake appeared like crane feathers, intricately carved. In Zhou, there was the saying about feathered ones ascending to immortality. Here, the revered snake had become a god through feathering, hence was venerated here. Yet the statue was clearly split in two, this half evidently dragged here, with marks of malevolent burning evident on it. One could imagine the hatred against the statue. Split into two, this half dragged here even set alight. Despite the blackened burns, the snake's body seemed vividly lifelike, even looking more alive where burned. But account for everything, this was ultimately just a stone statue. In the night, Ziyu sat down, carefully absorbing the atmosphere here. Woo 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 woo. The wind rustled, making the whole mountain forest sound like countless ghosts were wailing. The branches and leaves of the large tree swayed left and right as if malevolent ghosts were baring fangs and claws. Seeking deeper stimulation, Ziyu boldly sat atop the snake sculpture of the deity. She closed her eyes, listening to everything around her, letting her imagination run wild. At that moment, she even felt as if the godly snake sculpture beneath her had come to life, writhing. No, it didn't seem like an illusion. Ziyu opened her eyes to find the feathered snake statue beneath still cold, showing no signs of life. Moments later, Ziyu realized what happened. Sigh, always scaring myself. By then, she had stood up, stretching her raised backside. Traveling with Duanyun, though windy and cool here, it was somewhat hot by day, leaving her sweaty all over. At this moment, Ziyu wanted to bathe. Unconsciously, she looked toward the well. There should still be water in there, right? If she bathed right here and Duanyun happened to wake up unnoticed, then came over and saw her bathing, then... Honestly, this scenario was a bit cliché. 10 years ago, 5 or 6 of 10 romantic fictions contained it. But at that moment, Ziyu became somewhat excited. She felt she needed a cooling shower to calm down. It seemed inevitable she'd have to bathe. So, without further hesitation, she walked to the well and peered in. The well was deep, emitting a chill from its mouth, with the faint glimmer of water visible. Indeed, there was water. Ziyu looked around, contemplating whether to draw the water up or descend directly into the well to bathe. She leaned towards the former, because only by drawing the water up would Duanyun, if arriving, easily see her. So Ziyu turned the crank and the rope wound around the well's edge began to retract. Attached to the rope was an old broken wooden bucket. Though damaged, the bucket could be filled halfway if she was quick enough. Ziyu tossed the bucket down. Just before turning the crank to draw water, she felt a sudden shove, sending her tumbling into the well. There's a saying in the martial world, one should not enter a shrine alone, nor should two people look into a well. It means that people in the martial world are treacherous, and entering a shrine alone or two people looking into a well are very dangerous situations. Especially with two people looking into a well, one can easily be pushed into the well, and then all hopes for help are gone. Ziyu hasn't entered a shrine alone, nor has she looked into a well with someone else. Yet she is now falling into the well. To be honest, at this moment, her mind is in a state of confusion. She only feels like something has pushed her. But besides Duanyun, who else is here? Surely it can't be Duanyun unable to win her love, trying to murder his beloved woman by pushing her into the well? As Ziyu falls, she instinctively tries to stabilize her body with her movement technique, but with a thud, she has already landed in the well water. The well is shallower than she expected, or rather, the water is much deeper than she anticipated, causing her to fall into the well moments after dropping. The well water is extremely cold. Ziyu flails her arms, trying to float upwards, only to find her feet tangled in water grass. At this point, though submerged in water, she hears a woman's voice. Save me, save me, save me. The voice keeps echoing in her ears. Save you, my damn hen. Ziyu, simultaneously circulating true chi to break free from the water grass, angrily curses. First, she was pushed into the well, now tangled by these annoying water grass. And during such a moment you ask for help? Damn it. What surprised Ziyu is that despite her true chi circulating smoothly, the envisioned scene of the water grass snapping doesn't happen. Instead, it tightens around her. And below, the save me voice becomes closer. Ziyu suddenly panics, because she feels something in the water is rising. At night, Duan-yun suddenly wakes up. Upon awakening, he notices Ziyu is no longer here. Beside the campfire, it's deserted. He sits up and senses that this awakening is not ordinary. His body has detected changes around him. What kind of change? Magnetic field, maybe? Duan-yun has already jumped off the platform, eager to see where Ziyu has gone. With his extraordinary observational talent, Duan-yun quickly discovers Ziyu has gone behind the shrine. Behind the shrine are dirty steps, and beside them is a lush bamboo grove. The bamboo grove, untended, grows wildly dense and appears eerie and formidable in the night. Following Ziyu's trace, Duan-yun soon arrives near the large tree. In the night, all is silent. Unlike Ziyu, Duan-yun's eyes first catch sight not of the feathered serpent sculpture but of the well. In a place like Fusang, due to past experiences with horror films, wells are the first things Duan-yun notices. A faint splash echoes, marking a delicate water sound. Oh dear, could there really be something inside this well? Duan-yun grips the knife and strides forward. His knife remains sheathed, but his grip on the handle is firm. Frankly, perhaps due to childhood memories from sneaking horror films, despite being a one-in-a-million cultivation genius now, he still harbors some fear of such things. This fear is unavoidable, a natural instinct as a human. As Duan-yun nears the well, the bothersome water sound seems to vanish, replaced by a dripping sound. There's no rain, so where does the dripping sound come from? The obvious answer is something has crawled out from the well, creating the dripping. Suddenly, a long-haired human head emerges. The face is covered by hair. Isn't this Sadako? Take that! Without any hesitation, Duan-yun strikes with the sheath. Ah! Damn it! Sadako screams and falls back in. Duan-yun blinks, puzzled. Why does this voice sound familiar? Old demon, help me! Wah! Glug glug! A voice from the well echoes again, and Duan-yun recognizes it's Ziyu. Without hesitation, he leaps into the well. Ziyu, tangled by these strange watergrass, finds the more she uses true chi, the tighter and denser the grass becomes. She feels like this would completely bind her, leaving no hope of escape. Even more terrifying is the Fusang accented, "Save me," voice growing closer. She senses its proximity through water ripples. At this moment, Ziyu twists her body into a half-moon curve. On the boat, watching the lady perform a soft dance already made Ziyu slightly disdainful. What skillful physique competition. She's better. Yes, Ziyu's body is extremely flexible. She can achieve all the poses that lady can and cannot. With such flexibility, Ziyu directly kicks the sword scabbard. With a swish, the sword is revealed, and the water grass on her wrist is severed, leaking a foul fluid. Just as Ziyu prepares to grab the sword for another cut, she abruptly expels a stream of bubbles. Something bit her butt. That save me! Voice nearly invades her sea of consciousness. With a swish, Ziyu cuts the water grass and swiftly climbs upwards. Engulfed in immense fear, as that thing still grips her butt, she dares not glance back. Currently, Ziyu harbors only one thought, seek Duan-yun. Under such fear, Ziyu's light body skills improve considerably. Despite the thing clinging to her butt, she swiftly dashes towards the well. At the moment she climbed over the well's edge, she couldn't see anything, because her hair covered her face. She shook her hair slightly, leaving a small gap. In that instant, she saw Duan-yun standing at the well's edge, and couldn't help but feel happy. But in the next moment, a scabbard slapped her in the face. Just as she managed to climb up, she was knocked back down. So, the curse words from Ziyu came out instinctively. Ziyu was swatted back into the water, and those water weeds in the well tried to entangle her again. This time, Ziyu was prepared and swiftly twisted her body into more than 10 complex positions to avoid them. Ziyu seized the opportunity and continued swimming upward. Just as she surfaced, a broad leg came flying down at her. Your mother! Just as she was halfway through saying mother, Duan Yun landed in the water next to her. Beside the well, Ziyu was out but didn't feel completely out. Now, with her head bleeding and her butt in excruciating pain, something was biting her butt, and she didn't dare to look. She didn't dare to look, but Duan Yun did. It was a strange fish. To be precise, it was a strange fish with a head resembling a human, hair disheveled. The strange fish was biting hard on Ziyu's but constantly uttering "help me" in Fusong language. Goodness, this fish really became a spirit. Duan Yun tapped the strange fish's head with a scabbard, saying, "Let go! Let go!" But because of the tap, the fish bit down even harder, making Ziyu scream in pain. The fish continued biting firmly, constantly uttering "help me." Duan Yun couldn't help but ask, "How do you say 'let go' in Fusong language?" Ziyu quickly said, "Yame father, Yame father." Duan Yun followed, "Yame father, Yame father." The human-head fish looked at Duan Yun with those dead fish eyes, still not intending to let go. Duan Yun twisted his neck, saying, "Well, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit." Ziyu said nervously, "Duan Yun, it hurts a lot. Be gentle. Don't worry. My hands are quick. Bear with it." As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Yun slashed the strange fish's lips open. Beneath those lips, which resembled a human's, were razor-sharp teeth. Now these needles were stuck in Ziyu's butt. As the lips were slashed open, the fish struggled even more, and sweat poured from Ziyu. At this moment, Duan Yun made his move. He struck out with his finger, like a thunderbolt. Bang, 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 bang. A series of loud crashing sounds erupted, shattering the fish's flesh. With a thud, the fish fell to the ground without the support of its teeth, leaving a row of teeth stuck in Ziyu's butt. Duan Yun grabbed the teeth, and Ziyu trembled with pain. "No, don't, it hurts. I'll be quick. Bear with it," Duan Yun said with the compassionate heart of a doctor. Swish! The steel-fanged teeth were completely pulled out, and blood spurted out a yard high from Ziyu. Afterward, Duan Yun pressed on Ziyu's Kyush and Jigong acupoints, stopping the bleeding. Ziyu turned her head and glanced at the human-headed fish, almost jumping up in fright, saying, "What the hell is this thing? Is it poisonous?" She looked at Duan Yun, saying, "Help me get the poison out." Duan Yun squeezed her wound, causing Ziyu intense pain as he replied, "No poison detected at the moment." It was only then that Ziyu felt somewhat relieved. She thought this was so tragic, and her head was also injured. Even after Duan Yun destroyed the fish's jaw with his finger strength, it kept saying, "Help me." Hearing this angered Ziyu. "Biting people for nothing, and you still want help? I'll kill your whole family." Ziyu, backing away, grew angrier the more she thought, raising her hand and slashing the fish apart with a sword. Only then did the surroundings fall completely silent. Ziyu came to her senses and quickly covered her butt. "Don't look. Already did. Even if you saw, you're not allowed to think. Thinking is a mistake. Your butt is in tatters. No one would have thoughts." Ziyu suddenly realized, anxiously asking, "Will there be a scar?" Duan Yun pondered. "In the hands of another doctor, this butt would lose a piece, but in my hands. Divine Dr. Duan, save my butt." In the dark, decrepit shrine, a sizzling electric sound echoed. To be honest, hearing this sound reminded Duan Yun of welding in his previous life. What he's doing now isn't much different from welding. Welding metal then, now welding on Ziyu, welding her wounded head. After some manipulation by Duan Yun, Ziyu found that she indeed changed. At least it didn't hurt anymore. He really was a divine doctor. As for removing scars, that was a matter for later. Having regained some energy, Ziyu finally looked at the dead strange fish. The fish was truly frightening, with a human head and a strange fish body. Duan Yun cut open the fish's head entirely, discovering a coral-like tube hanging from the human head, as if someone had embedded the head onto the fish body. This reminded Duan Yun of the multi-brained bear from the box earlier. Could this also be artificial? At this moment, Ziyu said, "Look here." Duan Yun followed Ziyu's finger to find a broken feather on the fish's body. Do fish grow feathers? Ziyu quickly turned to the broken feathered serpent statue, saying, "Look at this. Isn't it similar?" She murmured. "This serpent ascends feathered. Could fish do the same?" For a moment, both of them had no clue. Duan Yun only vaguely felt that this fish's methods seemed similar to the multi-brained bear. At this moment, Duan Yun couldn't help but ask Ziyu about her experience. Ziyu remembered, feeling a chill as she said, "When I was standing by the well, something bumped me, knocking me into the well water." They both looked around. Duan Yun even used his pupil skill to search around the trees, but found nothing. At this point, he suddenly looked at Ziyu's back, saying, "Don't move." Ziyu didn't move, but the next moment, she couldn't help it as Duan Yun was taking off her clothes. "What are you doing?" At this moment, Duan Yun already tore open her clothing, revealing her back, saying, "You have a handprint here." Ziyu twisted her body to see a small, purple handprint on her white back, resembling a child's handprint. She broke into a cold sweat, saying, "A ghost!" Duan Yun looked again at the well. Then he leapt in. Ziyu waited anxiously above. Not long after, Duan Yun emerged with a child's corpse. The child was greenish, having been in the water for long, yet showed no signs of decay. When Duan Yun placed it on the ground, it hit with a dull thud, showing its weight. They compared the handprint size and found it matched the child's hands. Ziyu trembled, saying, "This was filled with heavenly silver water." Heavenly silver water was actually mercury, the reason for the child's heavy body. Ziyu lamented, "So cruelly treated at such a young age, truly pitiful." No sooner had she spoken than she threw the corpse in the air, slicing with her sword. With a bang, the child's body shattered, fragments flying as Duan Yun's fire fist ignited them. Subsequently, the bones with mercury hit the ground as Ziyu pummeled them excessively. Moments later, the poor child was completely reduced to ashes. No matter how pitiable, it deserves such a fate for pushing people down wells while asking for help. Forget the damned kid with this kind of upbringing. If not for not finding the parents, both young hero and heroine would kill the whole family. For a moment, even the wind seemed frightened of the pair's heroic spirit, and stopped. The surroundings became very quiet. Duan Yun couldn't help but say, "Let's sleep. Tomorrow we go deal with God Ju's entire family." At noon, the martial artist spat at the maid beside him with her mouth open, stepping on a carpet made of human skin, and walked towards the courtyard. In the courtyard, bamboo swayed, and the water flowed gently. The martial artist sat on a cushion made from a human buttock, preparing to drink some wine to calm his mind. In martial arts, calming the mind is always necessary, especially under his terrifying sword technique. As one of the most useful daughters of God Ju, the martial artist chose this name herself, believing that in time, she could rename herself as Martial God of the Earth. That would make her second only to her father. Currently, the martial artist only thought her elder brother, Zhu Zhong, could compete with her for the top spot. He has been active around high state, with the identity of their father's vanguard, intending to enslave the martial world of Zhou. Yet, in the eyes of the martial artist, her brother was too merciful to the people of Zhou. What enslavement of Zhou? She liked tranquility, and even in Fusang, she had to kill a lot to obtain peace. If she went to that damn Zhou, she intended to kill 2/3 of the people before discussing anything else. By then, there would be no need for infiltration or enslavement, would there? They would all come and kneel themselves. The martial artist was very dissatisfied with this and once thought of replacing her brother to solve the Zhou issue, but was refused. This made her somewhat angry, so she slaughtered half a city in Fusang for more courtyard renovations. She couldn't deny that at this time, she missed her brother Zhu Zhong a bit. The 5 siblings of the Zhu family were considered the most valuable children, and the Zhu family would hold a family meeting every 2 years. This meeting was not only a reunion of the siblings but also a decision on the distribution of the useless siblings as great medicine. The useless help the useful, a principle of transforming waste into treasure, which was the foundation of the Jew family's step-by-step reinforcement. And recently, more and more siblings ought to be arriving in Biki City because the Jew family meeting was to convene at month's end. By then, she would certainly see her brother Ju Zhong. At this moment, a servant stood nervously at the courtyard entrance, saying, "Miss, the healer you wanted is here." The martial artist furrowed her brows and said, "Healer?" "Yes," the healer said. "The owner has excessive fatigue and itching below, which is why he was specially invited." The martial artist furiously trembled the buttock stool beneath her, saying, "Nonsense. I'm 1 in a million, immune to all poisons. What exertion would make this lady sick? Do you want to be sat on by me?" These words frightened the servant so much his face turned pale, and he said, but, before he could finish, a voice sounded faintly, "Admit the illness, we came from afar to treat it." At the door, 2 figures had appeared. The martial artist involuntarily sat up straight and looked at the woman who spoke in Fusang language just now, and said, "Experts? Ridiculous. I have an illness. How do you plan to treat it?" Ziyu replied, "Naturally, the medicine will cure it." At this moment, Duan Yun and Ziyu had already entered the courtyard. These two were outside the door just moments ago, and in the blink of an eye they were inside the courtyard, causing the martial artist to sit even straighter. Because she had already seen that these two were definitely experts. Experts she had to muster her spirits to deal with. "Who are you?" The martial artist had already reached behind for the hilt of her katana, ready to strike. "I told you, healers, here to treat your illness," Ziyu said. Now, Duan Yun kept quiet, and Ziyu, as his translator, spoke with as much flair as if possessed by young hero Duan. Ziyu continued calmly, "Do you have a brother named Ju Zhong? We cured his illness." The martial artist frowned and said, "My brother was sick, and you cured him? What was the illness and how was it cured?" Looking at their attire, she confirmed they weren't locals of Fusang. Ziyu said, "Once you're dead, there's naturally no more sickness." "Baka!" the martial artist shouted angrily. Ziyu still walked leisurely and said, "Your brother left quickly, without pain. How do you compare to your brother?" At this instant, the martial artist's heart tightened involuntarily. She hadn't heard any news of her brother these days, but curiously, there were no results. One should know that during the time before the family meeting, these most useful children were always very active. So, had her brother really been cured by them? Because of this mood, the aura of overlooking everything while sitting on a human buttock weakened. In Duan Yun and Ziyu's eyes, the martial artist was quite like her brother Ju Zhong, with strength, confidence, and aura being closely linked. Her aura weakened, and so did she. "Do you want to obediently wait to be cured by me? Or do you want to resist a bit?" Ziyu translated according to Duan Yun's intentions. This statement, seeing Duan Yun and Ziyu's completely unpanicked demeanor, further weakened the martial artist's aura. Suddenly, with a loud, "Ah!" she screamed, grabbing the human skin carpet and flinging it. The human skin carpet carried force as it slammed their way, and she had already run back. Trying to run? Duan Yun's figure blurred, like light and shadow sweeping, and in an instant, he was behind the martial artist. The martial artist let out a strange cry, and the katana was already unsheathed, slashing towards Duan Yun's face. The strike was fast, swift, even cutting the air and creating a white scar. But to Duan Yun it was not fast enough. With a clang, Duan Yun extended his right hand, pinched the blade with precision like a pair of tongs, and said, "Too slow." But at this moment, the eyes of the originally panicked Jew martial artist suddenly brightened. Ziyu evidently noticed this and couldn't help but blurt out, "Be careful!" However, just as her words left her lips, a blood-red light suddenly surged before Duan Yun. Blood sea upon corpse mountain. In the instant her right hand's blade was caught, the Jew martial artist slashed out with another strike. She primarily used her left hand, while the right-hand blade was merely a trick. Or rather, from the beginning's decreasing momentum to turning to flee, and then to having the strike caught, all of it was an act. As one of the most formidable daughters of the Jew family, her strength was certainly not so feeble. Moreover, being a woman, she excelled in scheming and playing dirty tricks. The Jew martial artist deeply understood that the man before her was indeed powerful. So after successfully deceiving him, she unleashed her strongest killing blow immediately. Blood Sea upon Corpse Mountain. It was yet another blade. A blood-red blade. This blade was extremely concealed, as it had always been inserted in her rear. Yes, she used the cavity of her rear as the starting point, with the flesh of her thigh as the sheath, housing this blade. For this was a bloodthirsty demon blade. Having used her own flesh and blood as the sheath for years, the Jew martial artist had already reached a state of unity with the blade. He loved slaughter, not only because of his nature but also because of the cultivation technique of practicing with the blade and the demon blade itself. The demon blade was inherently bloodthirsty, making it difficult for its owner not to be affected. As the blood-red blade emerged, the entire courtyard resonated with ghastly wails. Blood-red sword light mixed with the ghastly wails rushed forth, causing Duan Yun to hesitate for a moment, because at that moment, he had an illusion of being surrounded by Corpse Mountain and Blood Sea, with thousands of malevolent spirits swarming toward him. No, he even caught the scent akin to menstrual blood. And in that instant of hesitation, the slash from Blood Sea upon Corpse Mountain was upon him. The breaking body sword energy surged out instantly, clashing with the intensely blood-reeking strike. This strike was evidently the Jew martial artist's all-out attack, imbued with his original blood, making its power extraordinary. Facing such a strike from Blood Sea upon Corpse Mountain, Duan Yun's breaking body sword energy melted away like snow. But just as the Blood Sea upon Corpse Mountain's blade was about to touch Duan Yun's flesh, it suddenly paused. In that moment, Duan Yun's two miraculous fingers somehow appeared before his nostrils and caught the blade. These two fingers seemed to possess a magical power, as if nothing in this world couldn't be grasped by them. The Jew martial artist's supposed killing blow was caught, and her expression changed instantly. If her previous panic had been feigned, meant to win with weakness, now there was no more pretense. What kind of fingers are these? In fact, the Jew martial artist didn't know that when Duan Yun performed his telepathy clasp to catch her and her blade completely without movement, Duan Yun himself couldn't move either. She suddenly felt like a lamb waiting for slaughter, utterly panicked. This panic led to vulnerabilities. Duan Yun released his fingers, loosening the telepathy clasp, and true chi started circulating throughout his body. He then kicked towards the Jew martial artist. The Jew martial artist could have circulated true chi and lifted her blade to resist, but her panic delayed her by half a beat. Against a master of Duan Yun's caliber, half a beat determined victory or defeat. With a bang, the Jew martial artist spat out a mouthful of yellow fluid, collapsing to her knees. This kick was utterly genuine, utterly decisive, crippling her offspring, completely emasculating her efforts. After Zhu Zhong, her brother, was ended, this sister was also rendered barren. At this moment, Duan Yun had already come behind the Jew martial artist, grabbing her wavy hair. With a ripping sound, the Jew martial artist's body involuntarily shuddered, because in that instant, her Blood Sea upon Corpse Mountain blade was reinserted back into her rear. The previous strike from her was impressive enough to shock Ziyu. If it were her facing that strike, she would have been in trouble again. Even though, in a direct confrontation, Ziyu might not lose to the siblings Zhu Zhong and the Jew martial artist. But twice, if she faced either of them alone, she would probably be the one to lose. Because both Zhu Zhong and this Jew martial artist possessed hidden killer moves able to kill someone of a higher level. Sadly, they encountered Duan Yun, a presence far above their level. Earlier, Duan Yun was fascinated by their butt-adjacent sheaths for their strike. Now looking at the sheath running from the rear to the right thigh, he still finds it fascinating. Someone actually uses this as a sheath. Duan Yun always considered this blood-red blade a good blade, comparable if not superior to Wenro. But seeing this sheath, He lost interest in seizing it as a trophy. It's truly filthy. No wonder he smelled something like menstrual blood earlier. Shushishu. For a time, the sound of the blade entering and exiting the sheath continued endlessly, and the Jew martial artist's body shook relentlessly. The sound was so closely packed and intense that Ziyu couldn't help but frown and consider covering her ears. And as for the Jew martial artist, constantly subjected to the blade entering and exiting the sheath, the key was Duan Yun's rough handling, damaging her sheath yet continuing to be rough. With a bang, the sheath was completely exploded. The Jew martial artist screamed miserably, thinking of collapsing, but Duan Yun grabbed her by the neck like a chicken. The Jew martial artist gritted her teeth. I don't know where you came from, demon, daring to oppose my Jew family, but if you kill me today, you won't leave Biki City alive. Upon hearing Ziyu's translation, Duan Yun couldn't help but express in curiosity, oh, the Jew family siblings gathering is about to commence. There are at least 200 of my brothers and sisters inside and outside the city. With a gang fight, you'll surely die, the Jew martial artist explained. Upon hearing this response, Duan Yun, instead of being alarmed, became excited. Good, 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 good. I didn't expect this young hero to encounter such a great thing. Let them come gang up. This young hero loves being in a brawl. For the entire afternoon, no one foresaw that, as the de facto controller of Biki City, the Jew family daughter, Jew martial artist, would howl on the city walls for an afternoon. All afternoon, she either yelled, I want to be a great hero, or, my name is Duan Yun. If you're a real man, come chop me down in Biki City. Her entire psyche had been devastated by Duan Yun, further hypnotized by him. She thus became a true human megaphone. The crowd from Jojo, having lost track of Duan Yun, were worried, especially those sea dogs believing Duan Yun planned treachery against Lord Hai, nearly crying in anxiety. But suddenly they received news of Duan Yun. Insane. Insane. A martial artist from Jojo wants to challenge the entire martial world of Fusang. The most valuable son and daughter of God Ju have been slain by him. He calls them all trash. Bastards. How dare the pigs and dogs of Jojo act so arrogantly? Dare provoke the great martial arts of Fusang. Where is he? God Ju is invincible in the world. Would he let him go? It's said after dealing with Ju Zhong and the Jew martial artist. He himself is heavily damaged, barely bluffing. What else did he say? He said his name is Duan Yun. If you're a real man, come chop me down in Biki City. These words came from the mouths of Fusang storytellers, spreading quickly, while among the onlookers from Jojo, there were also several bloodthirsty storytellers. Hearing the Fusang words like, the old demon is heavily damaged, they couldn't help but feel a bizarre sense. Shameless Fusang counterparts, always stealing our ways. The crowd couldn't wait. They all surged towards Biki City. Originally, Fusang's many mountains and forests made it feel more ghostly than populous. But as this news spread, the roads were now full of people. Shameless Fusang counterparts, always stealing our ways. The crowd couldn't wait. They all surged towards Biki City. Originally, Fusang's many mountains and forests made it feel more ghostly than populous. But as this news spread, the roads were now full of people. Shameless Fusang counterparts, always stealing our ways. The crowd couldn't wait. They all surged towards Biki City. Originally, Fusang's many mountains and forests made it feel more ghostly than populous. But as this news spread, the roads were now full of people. As one of God Ju's most useful daughters, the city lord of Biki City, Jew martial artist, even after dying, was given a grand send-off by Duan Yun. Although she was clearly dead, due to the strong stimulus of Duan Yun's demon electricity and heroic spirit, she continued to hang on the city tower, shouting, I want to be a hero, without stopping for an entire day and night. Duan Yun and Ziyu initially planned to kill them one by one, but due to unfamiliarity with the terrain, found it too troublesome, thus choosing this method. He, Duan Yun, intended to declare war on the entire Fusang martial arts world in this city. Those who dared to come and displeased him would be killed without restraint, not stopping until Fusang was completely overwhelmed. And the Jew martial artist inadvertently became his voice. It's fair to say, like Jojo, Fusang never lacks people to watch the excitement or storytellers to spread it. The bloodthirsty storyteller can confirm that they don't have branches in Fusang, yet they find Fusang storytellers even more gossipy. The notion that this Jojo demon seems to be challenging Fusang martial arts but is actually seeking mates, trying to seduce Fusang's Mrs. Mingqi in this way, and advising the Fusang women to preserve their integrity and bring honor to Fusang, spreads widely. Surprisingly, after hearing this, many Fusang masters couldn't help but feel a murderous intent. As in Jojo, Mingqi is meant only for the powerful. The husbands of Fusang's Mrs. Mingqi are usually formidable martial artists. In Fusang, keeping such a wife isn't easy because those who enjoy and lure married women are countless, with methods continuously emerging, often suggesting, "Madam, you wouldn't want. Madam, you don't know the great joy." Around Mrs. Mingqi, an underground black market has even formed. Every year, hundreds of pieces of Mrs. Mingqi's intimate apparel and shoes are lost, and the underground black market auctions these items. Many husbands of Mrs. Mingqi, who are strong fighters, even spend vast sums annually to buy their wives' clothes and shoes to prevent them from circulating outside. This underground black market hasn't been dismantled by the powerful because they also fancy others' wives' clothes. Recycling their wives' clothes might even mean buying other fellows' wives' clothes. These strong individuals are usually good friends with each other, and secretly collecting each other's wife's clothing provides them a thrill when they meet. This is mainly why this underground black market can continue operating in Fusang. Of course, apart from alluring Mrs. Mingqi, tales about old demon Duan loving surprise attacks and seeming arrogant but actually bluffing and severely maimed abound. Compared to Jojo martial arts, Fusang martial arts is much calmer. It's been a long time since such spectacles occurred. Fusang martial arts internally has already completed power division, and within Fusang, such sudden challengers like Duan Yun are scarce. Hence, it's been relatively peaceful. This time, Fusang has become extremely lively due to this outsider Duan Yun. Everyone wants to see how this Jojo person, usually viewed as no better than pigs or dogs, dares to challenge Fusang martial arts and seduce Fusang's Mrs. Mingqi. If this happened to someone else, the Fusang people would surely think it's a joke, a farce, since they generally look down on everything from Jojo. But with Duan Yun, things are different. This isn't because Duan Yun's demonic reputation has spread overseas, but due to his real achievements. He's truly killed several sons and daughters of the God Jew, including two of the most useful ones. God Jew's power is among the top 3 in Fusang. Directly dealing with the Jew family like this and genuinely killing several people only proves this person is madly brave and skilled. Suddenly, countless people flocked to Biki City. The towns near Biki City, saying they were deserted of people wouldn't be an exaggeration. Jojo's viewing groups were squeezed out of shape. The fur-wearing man couldn't help cursing, "Damn, aren't most Fusang people supposed to be aloof, pure, only focused on self-improvement, with a craftsman's heart and uninterested in excitement?" The man beside him asked, "Where did you hear that?" "Fusang rumors. Those idle books sell really well with us." Biki City is considered a big city in Fusang. But due to the sheer number of people, it became overcrowded. Even competing for a bridge hole led to knife fights. Those coming here, considering their own great strength, included numerous Fusang martial artists. Yet they didn't rush to show themselves. Because even if this Jojo person wants to challenge Fusang martial arts, the first target shouldn't be them but God Jew and the Jew family. After all, it's not their daughter who's hung on the city tower shouting, "I want to be a hero." Oddly, in these 2 days, the phrase, "I want to be a hero," has unnerved the Fusang martial artist. While they don't understand Jojo language, these few words give them a creepy feeling. This can be said to be the first Jojo phrase most Fusang people learn, yet it also becomes their horror. Even children fond of crying are calmed when adults suddenly say, "I want to be a hero," because the way Jew martial artist's corpse shouts this sentence is truly terrifying. Biki City is already overcrowded, and even the hilltops with good views outside Biki City are now filled with people. Except for these popular spots, other places remain quiet. No one noticed that a section of the bamboo forest under the hills was missing, soon replaced by a bamboo house nearby. Due to the rapid process, there's a sense that this shiny new bamboo house grew up from underground within the bamboo forest. At this moment, there are 23 people sitting in the bamboo house. These 23 people each have a little mustache under their noses, regardless of gender, and each of these 23 people looks very confident, their eyes sparkling with belief. Because when placed in the Fusang martial world, each of them is a famous and fearsome existence. Because they are the daughters of God Ju. Those who can sit here today are the strongest among God Ju's children. At this moment, 2 men and 2 women sitting at the front coughed, and the children of the Ju family immediately quieted down. The fat man on the left touched his little mustache and said, "I've asked Father, if we can't handle this matter, then we don't deserve to be his children." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone showed expressions of nervousness and fear, because not deserving to be his children means becoming useless, and the Ju family's tradition is to excel at utilizing the useless. At this time, a woman couldn't help but say, "Third brother, what do we do then? Should we just go in together?" The reason they are still here and haven't taken action is that they also saw that this Jojo evil demon has some skills. Not to mention others, the absolutely useful Ju Zhong and martial artist truly died at the opponent's hands, and their sister martial artist corpse is still speaking Jojo language, which is proof enough of the strength of the newcomer. The one called Third Brother continued to touch his little mustache, saying, "It seems that unless we of the Ju family act, those other martial artists will not make a move. These people only think of watching the drama and reaping benefits. Why not kill them first? If we can't handle this old demon from Jojo, we should be able to take care of this group of dogs?" Third Brother immediately opposed, saying, "It's not the right time to stir up trouble. If Father gets angry, you know the consequences." Everyone listened, and their expressions immediately became serious. Even their backs straightened. This old demon from Jojo, no matter how strong or bizarre, can't compare to Father at all. At this time, Third Brother said, "Currently, we can only try the blood relations cohabitation / Blood relations cohabitation / At these words, many men and women showed slightly strange expressions. The blood relations cohabitation / is one of the Ju family's secret techniques, a technique with great power, both a sword technique and an array, able to defeat the strong with the weak. To master this move, siblings with close blood ties must cohabit in deep practice, reaching a state of bloodline unity. Even though these brothers and sisters are affectionate, they are also competitors, and being siblings, it's rare for them to cohabit. At this time, a sister said, But now if they cohabit to practice, it might be too late." Third Brother laughed heartily and said, "There's no need. No need. If the brothers and sisters have the intention, it will be fine. We will be with you." As soon as he finished speaking, a mist had already filled the bamboo house. Sadness, purity. Someone couldn't finish speaking, as their tongue had already begun to numb and twist. Thud, thud, thud. The children of the Ju family quickly fell to the ground, unable to move for a while. Third Brother, you. Only 4 people had not fallen, the 2 men and 2 women sitting at the very front all along. They were naturally among the relatively more useful of the Ju family children. At this time, the woman next to Third Brother stepped out, chuckling charmingly. "My foolish siblings, we had already accomplished what you couldn't. You had already bloodline cohabited," someone said in a pale face. "Only realizing now? Looks like we've hidden it well." As she said this, the 2 men and 2 women were intimately close together, as if inseparable. The blood relations cohabitation / is already in place, but unfortunately, it's not enough. We'll have to rely on you siblings. As soon as she said that, the 4 of them had already positioned themselves behind the 4 siblings lying down. Swish, swish, swish. The 4 of them simultaneously took action. You could see their nails were very long, like sharp blades. Crack, crack, crack. Their right hands easily pierced into their siblings' skulls, and immediately, the entwining blood spread along their arms, being absorbed by their skin. Those being absorbed turned pale as paper, while those absorbing the blood looked radiant. They absorbed quickly, as if their bodies had an innate ability to absorb blood, because they came from the same lineage. In the Jew family, useless children become nourishment for useful children. This absorption method is an exclusive existence. The absorbed Jew family children suddenly became pale. One with the deepest power struggled to say, "If you do this, Father will punish you." The four of them laughed heartily and said, "Sister, you don't understand Father at all, which is why you're so useless. Don't worry. After we defeat old Demon Duan, you can claim a third of the credit." As they said this, the four sped up. For a while, the sound of skulls cracking and similar marrow-sucking noises were unceasing, as if many demons were devouring people. Or rather, this was an even more terrifying scene than demons eating people. In a family that was loving and affectionate, only four emerged in the end. Inside the bamboo house lies a large pile of shriveled, mustached corpses. The 2 men and 2 women looked radiant. Third brother, seventh sister. I feel terrifyingly strong now. The youngest-looking woman rolled her tongue and exclaimed. From here, one could clearly see circles of purple patterns on her tongue. That is the Jew family's medicine pattern. If the great medicine is pure enough, the more one absorbs, the purer the color of this medicine pattern will be. And her medicine pattern is purple. Very pure purple. Third brother removed half of his pants, revealing an oval pattern. His medicine pattern was on his butt. His medicine pattern was mainly purple, but mixed with some green and black, looking like an eye. This indicates that he absorbed more, but not entirely of pure siblings. The 2 men and 2 women looked at each other's medicine patterns for a while and couldn't help laughing together. They looked very intimate and sweet. Almost at the same time, the swords in their sheaths buzzed together. Suddenly, the 2 men and 2 women with 4 swords moved together, clashing, producing rhythmical explosive sounds. So strong, we are so strong. It's time to take the lives of those Jojo fools. Brother and sister, after this, are we the most useful children of Father? Zhu Zhong, martial artist, is dead. Besides us, who else? Ha ha ha. After a burst of mad laughter, the 4 left heading to Biki City. At this time, they were glowing, full of confidence, like invincible war gods. On the city wall, Ziyu looked at the corpse and said, "Can she stop talking?" Duan Yun said, "She committed many evils in life, and now regrets it after death, wanting to be a great hero. We should still give her this chance." Ziyu complained, "But she's already decayed." Duan Yun asked doubtfully, "Decayed already? This Jew family claims to be a pure blood family of 1,000. Their most useful daughter has decayed and no one comes to collect the body? This family really isn't loving at all. It deserves to be annihilated." Duan Yun sighed. Actually, besides the 2 of them, the entire city was eagerly anticipating the Jew family to suppress Duan Yun. Even if the Jew family is timid, they won't fight. They should at least collect the corpse, right? In the Jojo viewing group, someone complained. A few sea dogs' teeth were about to be shattered. One gritted and countered with the wind. "You don't understand the Jew family, the ideals of Lord High of the Jew family. How could ordinary people like you fathom it? If you ask me, if you can't guess their intentions, old Demon Duan can't guess either. That's the victory. Lord High of the Jew family triumphs overwhelmingly." As they said this, a bright and determined light appeared in a few sea dogs' eyes. Just then, a rhythmic snapping sound rang out. What is this sound? Fusang doesn't have many large cities, but Biki City is indeed quite sizable, and when this sound appeared, nearly the entire city could hear it. This sound seemed both familiar and strange, like someone clapping vigorously or the sound of a rattlesnake striking the ground. Anyone who heard it felt a strange sense of fear. Everyone heard this pa-pa-pa-pa sound, but no one knew where it came from. Duan Yun listened to this sound and asked, Why is it a pa-pa-pa-pa sound and not a da-da-da-da sound?
Ziyu replied, "Papa is used papa. Da is used da. My question is so much."
Their conversation seemed like a bout of wit, but Ziyu had already gripped the hilt of his sword. For everyone knew that this sound, so strange and eerie, was definitely coming their way. The two had been waiting on this city wall for 2 days and 2 nights. Because of the handsome man and beautiful woman combined with the beautiful sunset, they were often referred to as the sunset double demons. This demon also had the meaning of charming demon. The Fusang people thought those extremely powerful and good-looking demons exuding endless charm could be called charming demons. In their eyes, charming demons were a notch above ordinary demons. Just like people, those who look handsome can act with more impunity than those who are ugly and are more readily forgiven. You'll find those cliché stories of fair maidens offering themselves to demons, eventually falling in love and becoming a couple, always involve good-looking demons, rarely ugly ones. The ugly ones are stories meant for a niche audience. At this time, the pa-pa-pa-pa sound had already alarmed most of the city. The knowledgeable martial world people already knew that a master had arrived. The sea dog's eyes lit up, saying, "The big one is coming. Lord Hai is going to unleash his divine might. Why haven't we seen that birdman? This is called imposing presence. The person hasn't arrived, but the sound comes first. This is a height the Jojo dogs will never reach. As if you're not from Jojo. I'm not. In this life, my body may not be Fusang, but in the next life, it definitely will be." Having witnessed Duan Yun kill so many of their sacred and inviolable Lord Hai, this group of sea dogs was already in a state worse than death, mentally devastated, and had released themselves completely. For the time being, the whole city was filled with the sound of pa-pa-pa-pa. Although Duan Yun and Ziyu hadn't yet determined exactly where the sound was coming from, they could sense it getting closer. Knowing something major was happening, the onlookers involuntarily crowded towards the city gate where Duan Yun and Ziyu were. Some even had their pants squeezed off, or rather taken off by others. Fusang has a long tradition of groping and stealing underwear in crowded places, and usually, the victims don't speak up and just silently endure everything. Bad guys and thieves are often called Fusang fools. Now squeezed so tightly, it's the perfect opportunity for those Fusang fools to show their skills. Some people even fell victim while their husbands or wives were right beside them. For in such times they dared even less to speak up. Some crowded towards the city wall, while others retreated. These were mostly seasoned spectators who had watched many thrilling events without getting caught up in them, sensitive to danger. This group knew there would definitely be a bloody battle occurring soon. Those at the very front would surely suffer heavy casualties. They needed to find a second-line position, one where they could enjoy the view while having the front-line spectators shield them from harm. At this moment, Ziyu suddenly looked in a certain direction and said, "Over there!" Duan Yun looked in that direction and saw, above the surging crowd, 2 men and 2 women moving closer. Their figures were nearly floating, as if in an intimate dance. At a glance, they seemed like 2 men and 2 women dancing the tango. Due to their extremely light bodies, they occasionally floated above the heads of the crowd, or even stepped on someone's head without anyone noticing. By this time, Duan Yun had already discovered the source of the pa-pa-pa-pa sound. If the 2 men and women were dancing the tango, then the swords at their waists were dancing too. The 4 swords danced more intensely and intimately, producing the sound as they collided and rubbed against each other. This was the source of the pa-pa-pa-pa sound. The sound was very bizarre, seemingly echoing through the entire scene, yet it was elusive, which proved that the force with which they were generated was very peculiar. By then, the onlookers finally noticed the arrival of these 4 people. Someone saw their pink swords and immediately reacted, shouting, "The Ju family!" The Ju family had finally appeared. God Ju had thousands of children, yet the experienced Fusang martial world people could still easily recognize them. Besides the signature small tuft of a hygiene mustache, there was their weapon color. The phrase, "the pinker, the deadlier," often referred to the Ju family people. And now, the small mustaches and pink swords of the four unmistakably proved them to be Jew family offspring. Their mere presence, causing the whole city's applause, up until now, only drew attention to their ghostly body technique and imposing demeanor, was extraordinary. So strong. Invincible. The Sea Dogs and the Fusang martial arts people grew excited together. In the blink of an eye, the four siblings from the Jew family had arrived beneath the city wall. The third brother in the lead continued to do the tango with his younger siblings while issuing a challenge. "Jojo pigs, come down and meet your fate." After hearing Ziyu's translation, Duan Yun responded, "Even if I am just a sunset young hero, how can I come down at the beck and call of a Fusang pig without any regard for my dignity?" With that, Duan Yun held his sword, bathed entirely in the glow of the setting sun, becoming a picturesque scene in the eyes of countless people. "Come down! Come down!" The third brother continued to shout arrogantly, but Duan Yun remained indifferent, maintaining his dashing pose as the sunset young hero. At this point, the onlookers grew anxious, joining the Fusang crowd in cursing, urging Duan Yun to come down. Indeed, by this time, the four from the Jew family were somewhat impatient too. God Jew esteemed himself as a heavenly god, and naturally, his children were no different, always considering themselves as having a godly aura. Yet, as the most promising children of the Jew family vying for future leadership, they found their aura overshadowed by the Jojo individual in front of them, sparking a trace of annoyance. "Since you're so eager to die, we'll grant you your wish. Baka! Baka! Baka!" The four voices of Baka echoed simultaneously, followed by the sound of footsteps in unison. As the four siblings from the Jew family headed towards the city wall, they continued to use their ghastly movement technique, and due to the increased speed, their hips trembled into a blur. The four voices of "Ha!" resounded like thunder, and in Duan Yun's eyes, the four were clearly performing the tango, yet their voices resembled that of a teenage martial arts team. As the sound rang out, the four pink katanas that had been clashing against each other now emerged from their sheaths. Bloodline code-welling slash. For beams of pink sword light blazed simultaneously, slashing towards Duan Yun on the city wall. In an instant, nearly everyone squinted their eyes, feeling as if immersed in a pink ocean, with an indescribable impulse arising within them. In a flash, many onlookers were embracing each other. At this moment, the impulse had exploded, becoming incredibly apparent. It was the impulse to cohabit. Many of the spectators came as pairs, creating utter chaos at this time. You're holding the woman next to him, while your woman is embraced by a stranger behind, or two husbands are tightly pressed against each other, caressing, and those without partners are caressing a pillar fondly. Even those in the front of the audience were like this, so what of Duan Yun in the center? Duan Yun also had the impulse to cohabit. The same impulse had arisen in Ziyu's heart. So naturally, water flowed and the bridge formed, and the two were already embracing each other. Despite being in each other's arms, Duan Yun and Ziyu retained clear minds. Although Ziyu's power wasn't as profound as Duan Yun's, the moon-shielding light-shaming sword itself was a mirror, capable of illuminating the little details beneath others' skins, and equally capable of illuminating its own heart. Seeing this pair of shameless lovers embracing, the four siblings from the Jew family couldn't help but feel a surge of joy. This indicated that the two had fallen into their cohabitation sword formation. Duan Yun and Ziyu had already fallen, and what followed next was the deadly pink sword chi. From the moment the sword chi left the sword, it was extraordinary, and at this moment, not only hidden within the pink was absolute sharpness, but even as the sword chi left the sword, it continued to do the tango. Indeed, the sword chi, like humans, was doing the tango, making its trajectory appear even more erratic. In an instant, the sword chi had slashed from all directions towards Duan Yun. In the eyes of the four siblings from the Jew family, a gleam appeared, as if they had already envisioned this pair of Jojo miscreants dying in the sunset. Those in the front rows of spectators, beguiled by the cohabitation sword chi, indulged in the feeling of cohabitation, yet exceptions existed. That was the marine dogs and some absolute loyalists of the Jew family. Though they were embracing others, their eyes remained fixed on the upper battlefield. They all wished to see the Jew family win, to win overwhelmingly. Watching the sword light about to crush Duanyun and Ziyu, the smiles on these people's faces began to blossom, ready to burst into full bloom, for they foresaw the invincible pink sword light shattering all evil demons. If the old demon doesn't die, he's crippled, and crippled means dead. At this moment, the marine dogs saw the most beautiful hope, feeling that all the hardships and trials along the way were worth it. Yet, just as the sword light was about to thoroughly shred Duanyun and Ziyu, the 4 beams of pink sword light suddenly came to a halt. Indeed, they were still, as if time itself had paused. At this moment, everyone could even see the colorful hues within the pink sword light. Duanyun and Ziyu were still together, though at this moment, they were not in an embrace. Duanyun's entire being was horizontally suspended in the air in a tie shape, with 4 fingers of each hand and 4 toes of each foot clamping onto the 4 sword chi, while Ziyu crouched on his belly and chest in a striking posture. With heart-to-heart clasp, Duanyun had reached a level where his body was akin to a clamp, capable of grasping everything in the world. Therefore, not only were these 4 sword chi clamped, even Ziyu's energy was restrained, momentarily unable to move. The 4 siblings of the Jew family, along with the marine dogs and fervent supporters of the Jew family, watched this scene with their jaws nearly on the ground. Could this really be clamped? As the 4 siblings from the Jew family shifted their bodies, intent on launching another attack, Duanyun also made a move. Heart-to-heart clasp retreated. Duanyun embraced Ziyu and spun, and 4 streaks of sword chi flew past their bodies.
Bang 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 bang. 4 Mu fell shouts.
For a moment, sword chi crisscrossed, slashing 4 giant cracks in the thick city wall, causing stones to splatter. The next moment, the Jew family siblings saw a blurred figure approaching. Duanyun, as if he didn't need to breathe, descended from the sky holding Ziyu. Boom! The city wall tilted. A pit was created by Duanyun's stomp, and the 4 siblings were sent flying. However, the siblings had long been cohabiting to practice swordplay, reaching a near telepathic level of coordination. Even when sent flying, they did not panic and swiftly reformed their sword formation. The clashing sound of blades resounded, followed by another distinct tap-tap sound. The figures of the 4 executing their tango couldn't help but hesitate, because at that moment, Duanyun joined their ranks, still holding Ziyu. If they were dancing the tango, then Duanyun at this moment was doing a folk dance with tapping sounds resulting from his sword clashing with theirs. The original sword formation of 4 people suddenly had an outsider, like a deeply in love couple suddenly forcibly interrupted by a 3rd person, not breaking apart right away but becoming very uncoordinated. The siblings glanced at each other, quickly speeding up their movements, their hips swaying into blurs, attempting to force Duanyun out. If he doesn't leave, he will be crushed by their sword formation. But the more they swayed, the more frightened they felt. For the evil demon was neither forced out nor crushed. Instead they found themselves blending into his rhythm. So, in the eyes of the countless onlookers, initially 6 people were dancing with Duanyun holding Ziyu doing the folk dance, the Jew family siblings executing a tango. Swiftly it changed to 4 executing the folk dance, while only 2 continued with the tango. No, by that moment only the 3rd brother was left with the tango. Duanyun's actions seemed infectious, suddenly harmonizing everyone's movements. Ah! The most powerful 3rd brother's chest tightened, abruptly letting out a ghost howl, a real ghost howl, because the howl was mixed with other voices. Kill! Kill quickly! Kill us along with them! Be father's most useful children! These voices were precisely from the siblings he had recently absorbed. This sound shocked Duanyun's mind, making him slow down half a beat. The remaining 3 Jew siblings seized this gap, suddenly breaking from the formation, choosing to distance themselves before rallying anew. The youngest Jew sister soared high, like a crimson eagle soaring into the sky. Yet the next moment, her face was suddenly filled with fear, because she discovered herself embraced by someone. The person holding her was not her cohabiting brothers, the third and sixth brother, but the handsome demon from Jojo. Duan Yun's right arm embraced Ziyu, while his left arm held this Jew sister. His right hand holding Ziyu seemed extremely tender, indistinguishable from an embrace between lovers, while his left hand abruptly tightened, like a clamp gripping fiercely. Following that, he began his descent, spinning head down. "No! Don't!" shouted the Jew family third and sixth brother cohabiting with the youngest sister. Alas, even if their voice carried the lament of ghosts, it couldn't halt Duan Yun's fall. With a resounding crash, Duan Yun descended like a whirlwind holding the two women. The city wall collapsed halfway. Debris scattered, dust billowed. With the wind, the dust flowed, revealing a silhouette. Duan Yun still held Ziyu standing there, resembling a newlywed couple in love. At their feet lay a flattened body, unrecognizable even by his loyal horse. In his embrace, two sisters, one tender, one dead. Boom, boom, boom. Witnessing this scene, the two Jew brothers, along with a swarm of supporters and sea lions, knelt down in unison. Their eyes were filled with bloody tears. Although the Jew siblings cohabited to practice, the youngest sister was favored more by the two brothers, cherished in their hearts. The Jew sister, unrivaled. Alas, the Jew sister is gone.